Welcome back, friends. So it's been a while since I shot a video. I have a giant shop update video coming, but this video is not that. I recently did a Reddit Ask Me Anything and I wanted to do a live stream, but for some reason the settings just didn't work out. So what I'm doing is recording the entire live stream that I would have done and then posting it as a video. That way people, instead of reading through all the Q&As on the machined pen subreddit, you can sit here and just listen to them. This is primarily going to be mostly audio, while I obviously will have video recorded. You can put headphones on and go do something important, because that's kind of the way I like to ingest these AMAs, is just audio only. So hopefully the audio is lovely, and we'll get into the questions. This last year has been an insane year. I have you people to thank for it, so I thank you so much. Just my business has grown far more than I thought it would, and a lot of these questions are going to cover that. And by doing this video, I can get a lot more in depth with the questions as opposed to the answers I've already put up on Reddit. So without further ado, let's get into it. Look at that. I can even switch screens and everything. It's like I've done this before. All right, let's start off with the questions. I'm going to go in order that they were upvoted, probably not the way they were submitted, but we'll just we'll start from the top and we'll go down. Actually, the first thing is just me stating that the live stream didn't work, but I'm not going to say everyone's username here just because some of them are impossible to pronounce, and honestly, the way I have the streaming system set up here, it's kind of hard to see a lot of the usernames, so I can see the questions well enough. We'll go with that. First question: any plans to ever just open pre-orders with a non-guaranteed delivery date? Might be the only way most of us get a pen. I get that question a ton. I totally understand it. It's something I'm debating. The problem is I have enough demand for my product right now that even if I open a pre-order for a set amount of spots, it's still going to sell out pretty much instantaneously. If I end up putting the quantity to a point where it's not going to sell out instantaneously, my delivery time will be in the many months range, like 6 months to 12 month range. I know a lot of people don't have a problem with that, but certain payment processors don't like that. They don't like you to take a bunch of people's money and then just sit on it without giving them a product and kind of like finalizing the transaction. Obviously, there's ways around that. Another thing is sitting on tens of thousands of dollars of other people's money while I work my way through it is just a huge stressor that I don't really want to add to my plate. I have done pre-sales in the past. They're never usually all that fun because people give you their money and then either some people change their minds, some people don't, but anytime people give you their money, they have an expectation that they can demand more from you, and rightfully so. You have their money. Like it makes sense. They want their product delivered. It's an exchange. You give me money, I give you product. That's how it works out. I'm not saying that would happen in this instance, but it's something I'm kind of hesitant to approach right now. I'm sure I'll find a way that works, but it's not going to increase the speed at which pens go out there. It might make it a little bit easier for people to get a pen, but not at the quantities most people suggest. Like, if not to humble brag, if I do a quantity of 100 for a pre-sale, it's still going to sell out in seconds. And that doesn't help anybody else because it doesn't make the way of getting a pen any easier for you. And it just adds a bunch of kind of complexity and annoyance to my plate. So I am considering it, but just not right now. All right, so we can close that one now. From the original poster of this gentleman who asked me to do the AMA, super thankful, super nice guy. Said, thanks for doing the AMA and the giveaway. Oh, by the way, if you put a question up on this Reddit subreddit, I'm giving away a pen. Anybody who asked a question, it's just a random pool. I'm going to pick somebody, they're going to get a pen. You have infectious enthusiasm for making pens and optimizing your workspace and process. Do you have the same enthusiasm towards other hobbies and aspects of your life, or is machining pens your primary interest? And I have to ask for a timeline for the Energel. Most importantly, Energel tips compatible with 2025, 2024 Parker pens. Can those pens take trimmed Energel refills? Enthusiasm towards other aspects of my life. I mean, I'm super passionate about machining in general. Like this is a hobby that I've turned into a business. And I mean, a lot of people say don't do that. It's not a wise idea to turn your hobby into a business, but those are a lot of people that hate their jobs and they do it every day. Like, I will take a chance at turning something I love into something I dislike because I love doing it. And I've been doing it for years now. And if anything, I just love it more. That's why it's easy for me to put like enthusiasm into these videos, is because I'm genuinely passionate about it. I enjoy what I do, and it just lets me do a better job of it because it's compounding. Like it's not tedious for me to tweak on a design and like make something perfect, because I get enjoyment out of it. Like that's what I think about in my quote off time. When I lay in bed at night and I can't sleep, I think about pens and mechanisms. It sounds super dorky, but if you find something you love doing, it's a lot of fun. And a lot of people in this industry, a lot of people that work, you know, like in a machining, you know, kind of environment like me, and, you know, ran out on their own and did something, are kind of in the same boat. We just are passionate about it, and we just carry on doing it. So that enthusiasm just comes naturally. It's not something I put on. It's something I enjoy. There's lots of other hobbies I enjoy. I really like messing around with coffee. I like telescopes. I love flying like quadcopters, drones. Haven't done a lot of that just because I have a little family and I'm growing a business. And honestly, a lot of my interest and passion lies in this business. It's not work for me to come out here, you know, in the evening hours here, record this video for you. I genuinely enjoy this. So it's easy for me to keep plugging away on it. Energel pens. This question is going to get asked a ton throughout this. So I'm going to gloss over it a bunch, but yes, Energel pens, I get requests daily for people that want an Energel variant. I am working on it. It's not as simple as just replace. I mean, it is as simple as replacing the tip, but the way I've set the tip up on the current pen, I have to change some O-rings. I have to change a bunch of tolerances. It's a little bit more of a lift than just, you know, a quick 1 hour in CAD and bang, crank out a part. I am going to try to make it backwards compatible. The one problem with that is as I've grown through this business and made my pens better and better, the tolerances have gotten tighter and tighter. So to make something pure, like perfectly backwards compatible, I have to pick the loosest tolerance and work backwards, which means it'll fit a super early 2024 pen, but it may feel a little bit sloppy on like something recent. That's the only reason I don't sell tips, or I'm not already selling pen tips, because it would make sense. And that's obviously what I want to do, is make it backwards compatible, but getting the tolerances perfect where the fit and feel is dead on, that's something I'm hesitant about. So I probably will make it. I'll just loosen the tolerance off. And like I said, on the older pens, it'll fit probably pretty good. And on some of the newer pens, it might fit a little bit loose, but it'll get you an Energel variant with a pen without having to purchase a whole new one. So yes, that's what I'm working on. I get reminded daily, so it's on my short list for sure. Alrighty. Sorry, it's super easy to get lost here as I'm talking to you. Collaboration. This is QTrain23. He does some super cool pens. You can go and check out all his pens. He says collaboration. I was like, yeah, man, I'll work with you anytime. We just got to find an idea. We'll figure something out. How did I get started in machining? With the huge initial cost of different machines and the expense of materials, how does someone even start? Apprentice programs, schooling, I really appreciate it. All right. I started this as a hobby. I started it because I was passionate about it. And I mean, now it's even easier to get into machining as like a hobby because everything has gotten so inexpensive. You can buy an inexpensive little CNC router. It won't be fantastic, but it'll let you try things in plastics, even, you know, aluminum. You can kind of mess around with that. You can buy a little benchtop lathe for $500 to $1,000. Sure, that's a lot of money for some folks, but in the grand scheme of kind of the machining world, that's a very inexpensive, you know, area to kind of get into. I'm sure you could find, if you're into used equipment, you can find used equipment everywhere, especially used industrial equipment. That goes for literally dollars a pound for some really decent quality stuff. But if you don't have those options, a makerspace is a great way to kind of get your hands on some high quality or higher quality equipment to start dabbling in this hobby. The best by far advice I can give to anybody is just do it. Just do something. Don't just sit there and read about it and think about it. Doing will teach you so much more. Even if you don't have a family, you can make things with hand tools. You don't need fancy machine tools to make a lot of things. My little tag lathe, when I bought it, I think it was $300 or $400, and I made hundreds of pens with it. I started in very easy to machine materials. I did make titanium pens on it. It was a struggle, but I did it. So you don't need fantastic equipment to make good products. You're just going to use a lot more time. Like, I could not do the production I'm doing right now with the equipment I started with, but I could still make some, even with that equipment, I could still make some pretty decent quality products right now. It would just take me 10 times longer. So that's my best advice, is just do it. Just start with something, because it's just going to teach you so much. When will you branch out to different refills? Pilot G2. Okay, Pilot G2 is my favorite refill. So that's almost exactly compatible with the Energel. So once again, it's on my short list. I get bugged about it all the time. It's definitely coming out. Other refills than that, probably not, honestly, because that covers most of them. But if you can fit an Energel and you can fit a Parker, it's the modifications to fit anything else. It's kind of trivial. The only difference then is pen tip diameter. That's going to be the main thing, because tip wiggle is I hate tip wiggle. So any pen I make is going to be, I shoot to have 0 tip wiggle. When is the J bolt path coming out? What they're talking about here is the little bolt pattern that I have to actuate the pen to retract and extend and retract the refill goes a particular way. Some folks want it the other way. As I'm moving all the pen production onto the new CNC mill that's sitting behind me here, I'm going to make that variable in code, or that section of code, a variable, so I can switch it between left-handed and right-handed. And in that case, I will do a run of those pens. So yeah, that is coming sooner than later. I've been slowed up a little bit on the 4th axis work for this machine just because, issues that we'll probably get to later in this giant Q&A stream. But yeah, it's coming. It's going to be an option that'll keep all the lefties happy. And some of the right-handers, they want it swapped the other way too. What is the secret to getting one of your pens? Kidding, kind of. My real question is, what is your favorite refill and why? Honestly, fast fingers for the first come first serve sale is the easiest way to get one of my pens without winning the lottery. I sell all these pens. If you don't know, I sell all these pens via lottery system. So there's lotteries on my site. You can enter it, enters your email in, and then I chronologically pick names, and I also randomly select names each time I have a batch of pens available. After that, if people ghost their opportunity to win, all pens drop into a first come first serve sale, which just means the fastest fingers, whoever clicks buy now the fastest, gets to make that purchase. I'm super fortunate that I have way more demand than I do have production. I understand that makes some people a little bit aggravated because it's not a super easy way to purchase one of my pens. But yeah, that's the fastest way. If you don't win the lottery, just be good at first come first serve. You don't need bots. Everyone always says there's bots involved. There's no bots involved. People are just, they have their ducks in an order and a decent internet connection. That seems to be the winning ticket. My favorite refill, if I could build a pen around a fine liner refill, specifically I like a micron fine liner. There's lots of variant, lots of different Copic markers. They make a great fine liner as well. The only problem with that refill is you need to cap it, and to make a mechanism to cap a pen that's not just a screw cap is involved. So it's on my radar. They're also not super common refills to buy, but the pen I write with the most, even though it's sacrilegious, is a Micron. They're very inexpensive pens, and I love the way they write, and archival ink, all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, that's my favorite refill. Second favorite, Pilot G2. Kurt, first and most great work with what you are doing. What style mechanism and pen styles are on the horizon? All right, so yeah, I enjoy interacting with you folks. So yeah, you never have to thank me for this kind of stuff because I dig it. Like I said, this is my time where I could be watching TV or doing anything else, and I enjoy just speaking with you folks, reading about this stuff. I'm into it. Mechanisms. I've been working on a click mechanism forever. The only thing that's slowing me up is I want it perfect, and I know perfect can get in the way of good enough. But when it comes to pens, if you have a mechanism that works 99% of the time, like every 100 clicks, it just jams up, no one likes that because people click their pens incessantly, which is why I like a bolt action mechanism, because you could cycle it thousands, tens of thousands, probably hundreds. I know for certain you could cycle it hundreds of thousands of times with almost no change. If anything, it's going to get better because as the parts slide against each other, they kind of wear in and mate and bed against one another and produce a nicer feeling action. To copy that across to something more complicated like a click mechanism, you have to have some fairly robust design parameters because components moving and sliding across each other a bunch of times can not pan out. So yeah, click mechanisms are a kind of a place I love to play, but they're incredibly complicated. So yeah, it's something I'm working on. That's probably my favorite mechanism. I have a couple other mechanisms that I've been toying with. Tons of stuff in the skunk works. I think a click will probably be the first thing that comes out unless I just get an absolute brainwave on some of the other mechanisms that I'm toying with. But yeah, styles, there's a bunch of kind of cool 3D machining patterns I'm coming up with, but there's going to be more questions on that later, so I'll leave that for that. Hey Kurt, how many designs do you try before landing on the ones that you choose to produce at scale? And if there are a bunch, how do you decide which ones make the cut? The best way I do it is I machine what I want. That's the easiest way. It's kind of what I started off. I obviously take feedback from the community, what people like, what people don't like. But for the most part, I'm still going to make something that I primarily like because I'm not going to put my full effort into it if it's not something I enjoy. Then I put it in my pocket and I just run it. I use it. I also have some beta testers that usually are fairly close to me so I can get feedback and get the product back and look at it. Some beta testers that are a little bit further away. But I'll give it to those folks when I'm kind of settled on the design and let them feel it out and see if they have any feedback to give me. And then after that, I run it into a product. Obviously, I haven't done this a ton because I have basically one production pen now that I've just been refining on for years. So yeah, my design process is that. How do I decide which ones make the cut? Whatever one works best, feels best, has the least amount of things that make me mad about it. The reason that this pen in specific, this is technically the third variant, but in my land it's like the 40th iteration, just because I keep making minor changes, but there's only been about 3 major changes. The last major change being the 2024 variant. The 2025 variant, if you want to call it that, is basically no different. The next change will be once the tips change to be swappable. That'll be another kind of a hard break. But just tweaking on any product you make, if you tweak on it that long, it's interesting how refined you can get it. So yeah, I would love to produce some more designs and mechanisms in the future, but right now I have to basically just get production under control first before I have enough time to put towards other things. Hey Kurt, what's the next material planned in your wonderful pens, and why is it Zirc? 100% it's Zirc. If I'm going to bring a new material line into the work, especially into a production sense, it's going to be Zirc because everybody asks for Zirc. It is an amazing material. This is Zirconium. If you don't know, it's once you machine it, you can flame blacken it, jet black. It's very similar to titanium in many other aspects. A little bit more annoying to machine, a few more risks, quite expensive, but it's a super nice looking material. I like working with it. I've done one pen to date in Zirconium. It went to one guy who wants to remain nameless because he doesn't want death threats, people coming to his house to try to get it. So I know he really likes it. He puts it through his daily use. So yeah, super cool. Zirc. It's going to be Zirc. There's going to be other materials coming out too, but Zirc is the next one I will bring on board. I know people have said they will do a pre-sale for Zirc, to help offset the cost of bringing in a bunch of Zirconium. So I very much appreciate that. But yes, it will be Zirconium. Hey Kurt, thanks for doing this. Given the demand and interest, I want to know, do you intend to expand your business size to increase output? Also, do you have any interest to expand to other items, knives, fidgets, what have you? I'm always trying to expand my business. That's what I've been doing from stage one. Some of it I can expand by just throwing cash at it. Case in point, the big mill that's sitting behind me, that's helped out significantly. But some things aren't fixed by just spending money. Some things aren't fixed by just, bringing a bigger machine or whatnot on board. Right now, my biggest bottleneck is finishing and holding the high quality finish I want to do. There's not a lot of machines that'll optimize or automate that. And there's some lathes that I can use, specifically Swiss lathes, that will produce a little bit better finish, but I'm still going to have to do the finishing aspect of it. So that's what I'm focused on right now, is bringing that amount of labor down so that I can have production moving along a little bit more smoothly. It's not to say that I even want to, I do want to increase production, but I don't want to increase it to the point where I'm making, thousands of pens a month. I don't want to leave the garage. I love having a garage-based, home-based business. And if I can produce, let's say, double what I'm producing now in 3/4 the amount of time, that would be my goal, because that would be a very healthy amount of cash coming into the business, where I could explore all kinds of different avenues and different designs, and give me that 25% of my time to focus on building new product and just not sitting stagnant on a pen. It's not quite stagnant because I'm always iterating on it, but it'd be fun to just have more time to devote towards that stuff, as opposed to just sinking 99% of my time into production, which is currently what I'm doing, which I absolutely can't complain about, because that's what has afforded me this mill sitting behind me is just people buying my product. So the fact that I don't have to do marketing and, you know, people just continually buy my stuff is fantastic. It is the best problem. If you ever hear me complaining about it, I'm complaining about it tongue in cheek. It is the best problem to have, to not have enough product to fulfill demand. Fantastic. Yeah, it's not a magic button to grow a business. You can't just, sometimes you can't just throw, and I don't mean to like single you out or like, you know, throw shade. But some people think it's just a magic button of just throw more machines or more money at it and it'll grow. Sometimes it's more nuanced than that. Hey Kurt, is there a category of all the pens you made? I see each pen has a serial number and wonder if the pen is, or if each pen is pictured. Curious because I've heard about special versions of pens like the number 420 pen, Nova Watch, Railroad pens, but finding details about them is difficult. Absolutely right. I should have a way better gallery showcasing some of the more notable pens. I have photos of the first few hundred pens because I was selling them. Each one had its own listing. And then to optimize that, I started selling them in batches where I wouldn't take photos of every single pen. So after about, I think 300 or so, 200, I don't have photos of every single one, but I do have photos of every notable one of a new anodizing pattern, whatnot. I should totally put that into a proper gallery. I have all my, like any collaborations or any weird ones I've done. I have tons of pictures of those. So I should find a better way to showcase them on my site because they are interesting and some of them were a lot of fun and some of them are a little bit different. Like the Nova pens were made with railroad steel that I remachined and then re-patinaed, aged back to look like railroads. Honestly, those are some of the best balanced pens because that railroad material was so heavy and it was in a grip, like in the grip in the front of the pen. So you have all titanium and then you have a nice big heavy piece of steel right where your fingers are holding. So the balance of the pen was way better. So those pens are actually my favorite to write with because they don't fatigue your hand because the balance is right. Speaking of balance, we'll probably get more to that later because that's something that all metal pens suffer from, especially as the mechanisms start to get more and more complex. Oh, also totally forgot on that previous question. Someone said, would you want to expand into, funny enough, pens were never meant to be the end all kind of be all product that I produced. The reason I named my company Confounded Machine was to build these intricate, complicated little mechanisms, basically fancy puzzles. I knew the machining required and the design required to make these things that I want to make eventually required me to gain a lot of skills I didn't have at the time as a machinist or as a self-taught machinist. So pens were a nice pick because I had a lathe first and I made a pen for myself. I've always liked pens. It was an easy avenue to go down. And then it's just kind of snowballed to the point where I can't get out in front of it. It's just, and I enjoy it. It's not like I don't enjoy making pens. I go to stationery stores and just like walk to the aisle, look at pens, look at paper. Like I'm into that. I'm a dork for that kind of stuff. So it works out really well. But the point of all this was eventually to move towards an even more niche industry, if you want to think of it that way, because if machined pens are a niche industry, like mechanical complexity, little puzzle things are far, far, far more niche. But we'll end up talking about that probably more down the line here as more questions come in. But something I definitely want to pursue, as well as like all the millions of other little EDC items that are, out there to play with. Flashlights, I don't particularly like to make fidgets, but I like to make functional things. But if a functional thing has a nice fidget factor to it, I enjoy that. Not to say anything wrong with making fidget toys in, specific. They're wonderful. I get it. But I kind of like to make useful things. Alrighty. Any hints on your plans with 666? Yeah, so serial number 666 I put aside because I wanted the big machine ready to do the machining on it. I could technically do it on my little mill here, but it would be so much betterly done. Is that a word? More better done. Words. Done a lot of talking already. On the big machine. So the little delay in getting the fourth axis running on that has kind of put me a little bit behind in that regard, but it will come out soon-ish. There's two directions I'm going to go with that pen. I'm not entirely solid on which direction I'm going to take it, so I can't give more details on that. That's like the cop-out answer, but I'm not entirely sure what direction I'll take it. I have two directions I want to go with it, and either way, they're both going to happen. I just don't know which one 666 is going to be. But I have to work on that soon, or else I'm going to hit like another big number milestone, and then I'll be sitting on these pens. That's exactly what happened with 300, 400, and 500. I ended up sitting on all 3 of those and then sold them in like one big lottery because, well, they were here too long. I don't like to hold serial numbers too long. Hi Kurt, seems like you get really excited about finding ways to optimize your workflow. What are some of your favorite ways you found to make your space and process more efficient? So definitely the main one for me is just move things close together. People that some of my friends and family, whatever, that come and walk through my shop are like, wow, everything is really close together. It's hard to fit through here. I'm like, I'm a thin dude, so as long as I can fit through with a little bit of comfort, that's all I need. If I can access the machines, that's perfect, because the less distance I have to move, especially on repetitive tasks, when I'm moving between equipment, or between like a workbench and a piece of equipment, it just shaves off seconds here and there, but you do it hundreds of times a day and it makes a big difference. So that's one of my main ones. Another one is just putting my tools in areas, like organizing where I don't have to think or remember, putting them in places where I don't have to look. First order retrievability, I think someone had mentioned that. That's basically exactly what I'm after. I like everything put in its place, a place for everything, and everything clear and easy to see. I try to remove clutter. I try not to bring extra things into here. If I bring something in, I try to bring something out. I want less visual clutter. It just helps me work a lot faster. I also find text, weirdly enough, text is kind of slow for me. I mean, it's slow for everybody. Our brains are not very good at parsing text into what it means. So anytime I can, I use pictures or colors, or just like the physical layout of something, so I don't have to like if you have a bin of different size screws, you're much better off to like put pictures of what the screws are on the boxes as opposed to writing it, because it takes 3 seconds for your brain to read it, understand what you're looking at, and then be like, oh, that's the one I want. But it takes like fractions of a second for your brain just to look at the picture and be like, that's exactly what I want. So yeah, that's my, I don't know, I'd like to carry that more into different aspects of my world here. I don't know, that stuff kind of lights me up. I just enjoy finding efficiencies like that, especially the ones where they're like blatantly obvious. Those are always the best ones. Hello Kurt, what's your favorite part of the process of creating pens? It's probably the box up. My favorite part. I enjoy all parts of it, but boxing pens up and sending them out is like the most. It's like my work is done. All the stress of like building and like if something goes wrong or like that's all gone at that point. So I just box and like tape it up. It's a lovely time. I'll put on a podcast. I very much enjoy that specific area. But I honestly enjoy every aspect of building pens, and that's the reason I don't build them in massive batches. I've played with increasing batches, and honestly bringing more machines online lets me constantly be tweaking that batch size. But I like to bring it to the point where by the time I'm getting bored of an operation, I've already moved on to something else. Like if it's finishing that I'm getting tired of, well, I'm almost done, and now it's time to go into whatever cleaning and assembly, or like, and then once I'm done, once I'm getting kind of, that's getting tedious, then it's like, oh well, we're at the point now where we get to put everything in boxes and start making things pretty. And then when I'm bored of that, it's time to start all over again and take raw stock and start machining it. So I adjust my batch size to keep it interesting for me. That also has a side benefit of when I'm engaged and interested in what I'm doing, I'm going to do a better job without consciously thinking about trying to do a better job, because it's interesting to me. If I had to do the same thing for like weeks and weeks and weeks on end, you'd start cutting corners. Just even without knowing it, you would start just doing less good of a job because it's tedious, it's boring. Our brains don't like to, or at least my brain doesn't like to sit in a rut. But just even the small changes of building these pens, the different processes they have, is enough to keep me interested. So yeah, that's I like all processes. Lame answer, but I mean, I wouldn't be doing that this long if I didn't like all of it for the most part. Do you have any plans to make a wider pen and a J-shaped bolt path? So bolt path we talked about, it will be an option. Wider pens, yes. I want to play with some composite materials, specifically Ultim, maybe some other fancier ones. There's kind of some really cool Delrin-esque style materials that come in wild colors. So I'd like to do some of that. But to do that, I need to physically make the pen bigger because it's not as strong as titanium. The way my pen is designed right now, it's not suited for a lot of materials because there's a lot of thin walls, thin threaded features. Works great in titanium. It would work fine in like copper, brass, bronze, softer metals like that, but it wouldn't be as durable. Like a tip drop would take them out. Whereas titanium, it can suffer a pretty fair amount of, abuse before it becomes non-functional. But yeah, for most of the plastics, it's just not possible. So it has to be a little bit thicker for that. So yeah, I'm definitely going down that road. There will be thicker pens. I don't know if I'll carry them over into titanium. I can, because my stock is sized to allow me to make a fatter pen. But it definitely will come for the composite materials. Would you consider making a bolt action pen out of micarta? Maybe use steel tube inserts for structural weight and the threaded parts together. If not, what about cutting pockets into the body of the pen that would allow for different materials and inserts to show through, kind of like knife scales? You could sell different pen scales in various materials. That is a cool idea. And I'm kind of pursuing that in a sense, like layering material. I'm definitely interested in that. Sorry, bumping the microphone. I'm definitely interested in layering materials, cutting through one to show the layer underneath, a different anodized color, making punchy designs like that. That gives a lot of flexibility, and that's super interesting to me. I do plan on working on that. That kind of ties a little bit into 666, but we'll leave it at that for now. As for micarta, probably not. I don't like working with dusty materials. Just putting it in machines is annoying. Just cleaning them out or filtering the coolant. And some of my machines, like my lathe, for instance, is oil. So putting like an abrasive or a very dusty material in there is kind of a non-starter. So it's probably not going to be those materials. Plastics are not so bad because they're fairly easy to clean. They don't create dust, but anything that creates dust, I kind of don't like. That's honestly a main reason I moved away from like woodworking and went into metalworking, is because metalworking is very clean and very precise. You don't get dust, and I work hard to keep it dust free in here. So yeah, probably not going to be using any kind of dusty composites. I say that now. Talk to me again in like 6 months. I seem to change. I also wanted to ask about different materials, zirconium of course, but also other materials. It would be interesting to see what you plan to do in the future. Also, I haven't managed to get one, but the new flute grips look great. Well, thank you so much. The flute grips are actually a grip style that I started with a long time ago, and they weren't horribly popular. I didn't make a ton of them, but recently I brought them back just because I could. It's one stage before I machine the frag. Like the flutes get machined first, and then the grips, the little rings, get machined, and you get the frag grip. If I stop it before that, I get the flute grips. So I brought them back, and people seem to love them, which is cool because I like that design too, and it looks super cool when it's anodized and stripped back. We'll do more of that. Materials, you said it, zirconium. I've said it a bunch here as well. Zirconium is probably going to be the next material. I do want to play with exotics like superconductors. I want to do more work in meteorite. I did meteorite work in the past. Those materials are just heinous to machine, but they appeal to me. Some of the other ones like Damasteel and like Mokutai and all those weird alloys, I'm not super into them, but the really weird ones like superconductor and meteorite, those ones get me fired up. Hi Kurt, first of all, how are you doing? Hope everything's going well with the new machine taking some load off your shoulders. Any ETA on branching out to different materials? I know you made a single pen in Zirc at one point. Could we also get copper brass? I believe we spoke about a brass bolt as well to match blah 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 blah. Continuing on the thread of branching out, do you have any plans for more milling styles? Maybe variable grip diameters, step nose, cone nose? Will the super long Energel variants ever return? Any possibility of adding tritium to the bolt or loom paint in the millings? Whole plethora of fun questions there. Materials, I feel like we've touched on enough here. Machines are lovely. They're definitely taking some of the weight off my shoulders. The mill in specific, it cranks out parts so much faster. The finishes are so much better. It just reduces my finishing time. I'm very much enjoying that. I see the advantage. I see the reason why spending tens of thousands of dollars gets you better surface finishes than thousands of dollars on my hobby mill that I've just sunk tons of time into. Branching up, machining milling styles. Yes, I have a 3D milling pattern that I'm working on right now that is stupidly complex. I shouldn't even be worried about saying details about it because no one in their right mind is going to follow me because it's going to be impossible to make any money doing it. But that has never stopped me in the past and is not going to stop me here because I think it's going to be cool. It also kind of coincides with the Artemis mission, so that's kind of where it's the best details I can give right now. I don't want to give away too much more because no one else has done it, and I don't want someone to steal my idea. I mean, they'll steal it and they'll go broke because it would be a lot of machining. But that's primarily the reason I bought this mill with a very high-speed spindle to handle small tools and do lots of fine, intricate 3D work. So yeah, that's something I'm definitely actively working on right now. As for different pen styles, naturally these pens kind of just grow and change as I make iterations on them. will I ever do something different? Probably. But like I said, right now, this production is crushing me so hard. It's hard to focus on new designs when I have a product that's just immediately selling out. It's like walking past a pile of gold to try to find a different pile of gold. Like, it's lovely, but I also have to pay the bills and I enjoy making the current pens. So yeah. Yes. Short answer, yes, there will obviously be new variants in the future, but the future is now that time frame is the key part. Will the super long Energel variant ever return? No. That thing was a sword, and it was machined that way because I didn't have a way to make it smaller. However, with the new way of machining the bolt action pens right now, I can make it significantly shorter, so an Energel version will come out. It just won't be a sword like the old one. Tritium, 100%. I love tritium. I've been eyeing that stuff for, I don't know, years now. I have all kinds of weird designs with it. One of my side hobbies interests is like dive watches. So lume and like tritium and all that stuff on watch faces is yeah, I'm big into that. So yeah, it's coming, and a pairing with Zirc would look amazing. So that's on the horizon. It's in my Skunkworks file. It's not as high up as the Energel and new materials, but it's up there for sure. I just, for nothing more than just playing with tritium, just such a wild kind of use of materials to make it glow. It's essentially a glowing vial. If you don't know tritium vials, they're just like glow. It's like glow in the dark, whatever, lume like paint, but they glow because of the reaction, because of, like, I believe it's radiation, and then I think it phosphoresces. So they don't need to be charged with like a light source like most glow in the dark things. They just naturally emit light, which is super cool. Hey Kurt, thanks for doing one of these. The Nova Watch collab was super cool. Do you have any local or semi-local makers you'd like to collaborate in the future with? Stang Blade Works might be cool. And then also, in your experience, what's a machining technique that would seem super trivial to a non-machinist, but actually requires a lot of skill and attention to detail? That would be, hold on, just checking the stream, making sure everything is happy. Good. The collaborations were fun. I don't know if I'll do a ton of collaborations in the future. I will do a collaboration with somebody if they can bring 50% of the fun to the table. If there's something they do super well, I do something super well, and we can work together to make something really cool, I'm all for it. I'm less for working with somebody that just wants to use my product with their branding and then me use their channels to gain customers. Like, I mean, I don't mean it to sound braggadocious, but right now I don't need more customers. So I've been approached by a few people to do collaborations, but for the most part, it's, hey, put our logo on this and we'll list it on our site, and then and you'll have more customers. And I'm already getting crushed, so maybe it's not forward thinking enough, but I don't want to. Those are the companies I don't really want to work with right now. But like Stang Blade Works, he's a super cool guy. He's local. He makes great knives. Go check him out. Yeah, if he had something that he wanted to work with, 100% I'd work with him. Q3D. He makes pens. He expressed interest in working with a collaboration. We're definitely going to do something together. I don't know when, but we will. Those kind of people I like to work with. People that are kind of in the trenches. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, but I don't know. I've been approached with a lot of collaborations, and it's a lot of coattail riding is what I'm starting to understand. It's just people want to hitch their wagon up to a wagon that's moving faster than them. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. My question is about the future, and what other materials do you plan on making your pen bodies out of, and accessories such as Mokutai, Timascus, Damascale, Zirc, or even brass bronze, blah, blah, blah. Any ideas on when you might consider any of those materials at some point? Okay, I think we've beat that one to death. Zirconium for sure. Like I said, I'm not super interested in some of the Damasteels and whatnot. Brass, bronze, copper. I do like those materials. I think they kind of have like a super, not old timey, but like they're just timeless, like a timeless material. They look really cool. So I will, like I said, and my pen doesn't really lend well right now, the design, to a softer material, but I do like playing with those materials. I have made copper pens, I have made brass pens, I've made bronze pens. I will make more of them. Just I don't know if it'll be in this specific design because it's just not as durable as I would like them to be. And I try to make my pens last longer than the people that buy them. That's kind of always the goal. Hi Kurt, do you plan on making different variations of tip designs, ones that are compatible with different refills? I feel like we've talked about that. To maintain the zero tip wiggle like your standard pen, or add milling patterns like frag grips to the tips. Yeah, there's tips, of course. I do want to actually do some more machining on the tips, some kind of like weird stuff, but we'll see what the future holds there. That's unfortunately not super high on the to-do list, aside from the Energel. Obviously, that's very high on the to-do list. So please quit messaging me about it. No, I love it. I love that people are interested in my product. I cannot complain about that at all. How has working full-time for yourself and the success of Confounded Machine changed your life in the last year or so? And do you have any other interests, hobbies outside of machining that you'd like to share? Well, I'm glad you asked. I never really planned for this to be a business. I mean, I did plan obviously for this to be a business, but it started off as a hobby that just kind of naturally started to grow. And then I was super lucky that I had a job with a company, and I'm still in contact with them. The owner of the company, we started together as a startup, and he saw me kind of getting more involved with this, and he gave me all the freedom in the world to slowly move into this kind of career, and has just given me as much help as he possibly could. Amazing person. So I'm super lucky in that regard. So that has let me honestly spend more time like with my family, and I was spending the worst part was when I was working a full-time job and trying to grow Confounded Machine at the same time. Like my time was zero. But now working full-time, I actually have more family time because I can devote all my effort to this. And I'm just lucky enough that I can sell enough products that I can make, my ends meet, and I'm not starving. So yeah, how it's changed my life is being able to be home, especially in the last few years. I've had my little mutants, my two little girls. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and just being able to see them every single morning and take them to daycare, or be able to alter my schedule so that I can be with them if I need to be with them, and work late into the evening. Like right now it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm doing this. It just being able to work from home and having all the equipment sitting here in my nice soundproof garage where I can machine at 2 a.m. and bother nobody. That's key. That's honestly like a main kind of pillar of my business and the way I want to move going forward. Also, the reason I don't really want to leave the garage shop is just because I love those luxuries. I love having an idea at midnight and being able to come down here and just kind of work it through without having to get my vehicle and drive to a commercial space or whatnot. It's just, I very much enjoy having a home garage shop. It's it's lovely for the family aspect, and it's lovely for the wild tinkerer brain aspect. Interest in hobbies outside of machining that you'd like to share? Yeah, tons. Coffee is a big one for me. I'm modifying like espresso machines and whatnot. I have like all the parts sitting downstairs to make a Gagagino. One of the Gaggia classics. You can modify them and put like all kinds of smart hardware on it to like brew really nice espresso shots. So that's something I'm toying with. It's not actually a Gaggia machine. It's like it's a Seco arc, but modifying that. Anyways, coffee is definitely one area I like to play with. Telescopes, I honestly spent a lot of time looking through my telescope, but telescope and like astrophotography, kind of enjoy that as well. Drones, quads, love doing that. Just like FPV kind of stuff. Been into that forever. Actually, that's kind of what led me down the path of machining and CNC work, was RC. Just building smaller components. You kind of just want to start collecting a bunch of machine tools to start making them, and that kind of led into this, and now this is kind of trumping that hobby. So I have too many hobbies. I could use 48 hours in a day, and I would still run out of time. So yeah, those are my main interests and hobbies outside of machining. Right now I'm actually super into home automation, which is lovely because I can also tie that in with the business. Like I can automation in here, like controlling lighting and whatnot, makes my life easier. So it's a very slippery slope because I can just sink tons of time into that. So yeah, playing with home automation systems right now is kind of big on my my hobby list when I'm not doing pen dork stuff. What is the most satisfying part of your process? What skills do you not possess that you find the most fascinating? And thank you for being so generous with your time. Oh, thank you for your questions. Like I said, I literally love doing this. I would do this to the point of detriment. What is the most satisfying part of my pen process? The entropic finish, which is a very kind of delicate, persnickety finish for titanium, is my favorite because it is either it goes super well and it looks fantastic, or it goes bad and looks terrible. The terrible part is less fun, but as I've gotten better with it over the years, I get a lot more of the looks perfect aspect out of it, and that's just the most fun because it goes from looking like nothing to looking amazing. If you look it up on YouTube, entropic finish, there's tons of tutorials on it. It's not a process I'm hiding. Like it's no secret. You can look up loads of information on it, but figuring out how to do it well, that's where the rubber meets the road. So yeah, that's probably the most satisfying process. It can also be the most like tear inducing process, but it is probably the most satisfying process. That and just getting like a super clean anodize on a pen is kind of pleasing to watch it just change colors. I enjoy that as well. What skills do you not possess that you find most fascinating? I don't know. I have a ton of skills that I don't possess or I can't do well that other people can do fantastically. I mean, marketing is probably one of them. I always laugh at the people that can like market a product so well. I mean, arguably maybe this is marketing a product, but I'm pretty introverted contrary to, this talking to many people. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that well. So I don't even think I answered that well in text, but yeah, I'll come back to it if I think about something that I'm terrible at that other people do and I find very interesting. Other than like, people that are just super talented at certain sports or, art. I have a bunch of friends who are just fantastic artists. That's kind of always blows my mind that they can sit down and draw. Like I can draw well, but I can't draw like half as good as a quarter as good as some of my friends. Hi Kurt, how's it going? That's not the main question. What sorts of future plans do you have for the brand and designs of writing instruments? New materials, new mechanisms, new designs and shapes? For instance, would you ever consider a more contoured, streamlined design? Flame Zirc, incorporating new mechs, or you just any one of those details. Thanks for taking the time to chat with folks who appreciate the work you do. Well, thank you for taking the time. I'm knocking stuff over on my desk. Thank you for taking the time to write in questions because, yeah, this is quite a lot of fun. Mechanisms are definitely the most interesting things to me for writing instruments. That, like I said, the complexity is what draws me to this. As the years go on, as I'm doing this, the more complicated I can make things, the more it makes my brain happy. I don't want to make simple products. I don't want to throw shade at anybody, but I want to make complicated things. So mechanisms obviously are a thing that draw my attention just because they're interesting. Designs and shapes, like I said, the design is always evolving, always changing. I would love to make a pen with no straight lines on it, just organic shapes everywhere. But that also presents a ton of issues when it comes to machining it. So there's a bit of a balance there as well. Materials, we've beat that horse to death. So yeah, I don't know. Evolving process. All right, had to take the sweater off. It's getting hot in here. It's been super cold here. I was the heat cranked, but now it's a nice warm day, so it's quite warm in here. Back to the questions. Hey Kurt, first time, long time. As a daily user of Confounded Bolt number 485, curious what designs you have in mind to enhance the current design. Bigger diameter body, as an example, or completely new mechanisms. Love your work. Oh, thank you so much. Right now, probably the main design thing that you'll notice the most in the next X amount of months is some of the 3D design work I want to do that I have coming up for this product that I've kind of spoke to a bunch on this on these questions already. That'll be the most striking thing. If it goes the way I wanted to, if not, I'll just pretend I never said this and we'll just carry on. As for, I'm always going to be refining this design, making it better. That's just, once again, it just kind of comes naturally as people give me feedback and I understand things better and my skills grow. I can just always make something better and better and better. Like I will never be able to refine this pen to the point that I call perfect, which is lovely because nothing is perfect. It's always a pursuit of it, which is kind of one of the taglines of my business. So yeah, that would be how I would enhance the design. And then bigger diameters and stuff, sure. With, like I said, talked about some of the composite materials and whatnot. I might roll that into titanium. There's some other things I want to play with as well. But yeah, the 3D machined bodies on the pens are kind of the thing I'm sinking a lot of time into right now. What is the favorite pen you've ever made? Oh, the favorite pen I ever made is a terrible one. It's the first pen I ever made. I made that on my little tag lathe. I made it out of just some steel. It rusts. It doesn't have an end cap. The ink is always exposed. It had a pocket clip off a Zebra F701 pen, which is also fantastic if you need a good budget EDC pen. I carried it. It ruined every single pair of pants I wore because the ink would always leak into the pocket. So I have a ton of jeans. Almost all my jeans have stains right where the end of the pen is. Also because I just forget to click a pen closed or play with it in my pocket and end up making all kinds of ink spots on my pants. But yeah, that's my favorite pen. I will never get rid of it. I don't even know if I have any pictures of it online. I will post some pictures of it online. But it's the first pen I ever made. It's kind of what led me down this rabbit hole. Yeah, it's terrible. It doesn't write fantastically well. It's got a ton of tip wiggle. to like change the refill, you have to like disassemble the whole pen. There's pressed together parts. There's a bunch of things that I would never do on a pen that I sell, but it is my favorite. My favorite pen I ever made anyways. Super cool that you're doing this, man. Question: how did you first get into pen making, and will you ever make any other products besides pens? Oh, thank you so much. I stumbled into pen making because I purchased a mini lathe, and just that was logically the next thing to make. It's a simple round product that I could use. Like I said, I was already kind of into pens, so it was just gave me the gateway to start building my own. It was never, like I said, it was never meant to be the end all. It just ended up being that way, and I'm very fortunate that it has gone that way. But I will absolutely make other products. I have a gang of them just waiting for me to have a little bit more time so I can actually push them into production. A flashlight is on the list for certain. Some EDC related things, mostly things I use on the daily that I've had maybe poor quality versions of, or I shouldn't even say poor quality versions, but kind of designs that I thought, you know what, this might work, and I treat it as kind of a beta unit and keep it with me, and then use it so often. I'm like, all right, this needs to be a proper product. I have a gang of those, so I would very much love that, and they're all centered around useful things, things most people can interact with on the daily, like I said, and probably never going to get into a knife. I mean, that doesn't really excite me, but maybe like a pen knife, kind of like that idea. I kind of like pen shaped things. Obviously I'm kind of geared up towards making pen shaped things, but with the tooling here I can make anything. Yeah, I don't know, useful daily things. That's probably the next things I'll roll into, besides the lofty things I've talked about over these like mechanical complexities, these super complicated metal puzzles. I would love to make those, but those will never be in a production quantity. It's just far too complicated. They'll be far too expensive to make. They'll be very small kind of collector item pieces. I would love to get into that, but I have to get production to a point that it can sustain me, sinking hours and hours of time into that, because unfortunately hopes and dreams don't keep my lights on. Hi Kurt, thanks for taking the time to answer our questions. If there was a this is a good question. If there was a Mount Rushmore of EDC makers and machinists, who would you select as the 4 to have their face is immortalized in stone for their greatness? So I kind of misread this question when I answered it. I thought he was mainly talking about pen makers, which is why I wrote this whole list. But I'll tell you what I think for the pen makers here. There's 3 people that immediately come to mind. One would be Will from Tactile Turn, and apologies if I get any of these names incorrect. I'm fairly certain they're all correct. Will from Tactile Turn, just because he kind of showed how successful you can be with a Kickstarter making pens, which, I mean, tons of people I talk to, when I tell them I make pens for a living, they're like, oh, have fun starving. So he was kind of one that kind of showed the way that like you can make massive businesses just selling pens. So he's for sure deserves to be on there. Calvin from Urban Survival Gear, or Smooth Precision Pens. I think now he's known as the Knife Engineer on Instagram. Once again, super cool guy. Started off in his garage, grew it pen making business to just a massive organization. Just these are the people that I tell other people about, because anybody that I talk to that says, oh, these are big pen machinists, they're like, oh yeah, it's probably like you, another guy in your garage just, making, handfuls of pens. Like, no, they're making thousands and thousands in big factories with millions of dollars in equipment. So yeah, he gets to be on the mountain too. And another guy, Ian from Shown Designs, he makes fountain pens, but he's doing stuff in the fountain pen world that I just haven't seen other people do. He makes his Monarch titanium nib, like he's machined it all. Super cool, amazing work, beautiful finishes. I would love to add one of his pens to my collection. And the cool thing about all these guys that I just talked about, they've all reached out to me in one sense or another and offered their expertise or their advice, or like just an open channel to chat with. Nobody has been closed off on what they want to share, which is super amazing that you can have these people that are arguably like competitors. I mean, they understand that a rising tide lifts all ships, or whatever the phrase is. We all grow better by sharing and keeping and propping everybody else up. There's plenty of people in the world. And the funny thing is, when it comes to pens, anybody who buys one of my pens is probably going to buy one pen from everybody else too, because we're all savages and addicts, and we like want to collect a bunch of these. So you're not even shooting yourself in the foot by, you know, helping out your quote competition. It's because you're all going to get better. And if someone does something better than you, it's kind of the way the free market goes. So, you know, you can't sit on your hands. All these guys, fantastic, super nice guys. If we open that question out to just general makers, that's a whole different kettle of fish. I don't know. There's so many people that I could pull from. I mean, Adam Savage would probably be a big one. He's kind of has a huge, even if you don't care for his work, he has a huge like media presence, and just kind of led a lot of people, you know, down the path of becoming a maker. DeResta, obviously, huge YouTube channel. I know he's been inspirational to me for a lot of things. We do different style of work, but yeah, once again, just kind of pushing that whole like what you can make ethos out into the world. There's probably a gang of them that I'm not thinking about, but yeah, we're fortunate to have to live in a time where there's some pretty fantastic small makers out there just cranking out some absolutely fantastic products. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that I'm particularly excited about your designs. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Are there any other milling options being thought about? Once again, we beat that one to death a little bit. The 3D crazy machining operations are definitely something I'm thinking about right now. The ISO grips were the latest ones that I came up with. I'm super happy with those. They're just slowly getting more and more refined as the pens go out. But I'm pleased with that one. I will probably release something similar. Space technology, kind of that area is what I draw a lot of inspiration from. So if you're into kind of the whole space technology sector, there's a ton of things where you can pull inspiration from. So that's where I start getting a lot of my ideas. And sci-fi. I'm kind of a sci-fi dork, so I like that stuff too. Any plans on offering just clips to mix and match? Also, what do you think of the state of the machined pen world is in right now? Clips to mix and match? Probably not. I serialize all the clips, so that's the one serialized part of the pen, so I don't really want to just kind of sell those willy-nilly. I could just put like a blank serial number on all of them, but the other problem is the pockets that I've machined in all the pens from, you know, pen whatever 100 onward. They've all had a slight amount of variance, which is fine when I'm machining the mating pocket clip because I can size them so they snap together perfectly. If I had to go back and machine a clip for an old pen, and I have had to do that a few times, it comes into that same tolerance problem where I have to pick the lowest level tolerance to make sure it fits. Because if it's too small, it'll still go together and work. If it's too big, it just won't go together. And a press fit has very little tolerance. Like you're talking many fractions of a hair different, and it just won't go together. Or, you know, a few of those to the negative side, and it goes together sloppy and the clip won't line up nicely. So probably not something I'm going to pursue. For mixing and matching is just not going to be, unless something wildly changes. I don't think I'll be going down that road. Looking forward to this. Any news on Zirc options coming soon? Are there any new designs in the work? I feel like we've beat that question to death, so we're just going to skip along. I appreciate the question, but I'm just going to skip ahead. Some of these things that I've answered a bunch of times, I'm just going to gloss over now because, well, you don't need to receive an ear beating of me just saying the same thing over and over and over and over. Kurt, do you have a favorite part of the business and worst part? I still don't have one of your pens, but maybe one day. Oh, well, good luck getting a pen. My favorite part of the business is honestly this. Interacting with the community. Everybody in this community is fantastic. It's so fun to chat with people. I've got to chat with people in areas that I've just never in a million years would we cross paths. And we do because we're into the machining world. And this is mainly like the Insta Machinist community, the pen machining community as well. But like just the machining community in general is fairly open, especially now that the kind of age is skewing to a younger generation, where some of the old crusty machinists that want to retain all their knowledge and feel like whatever they have in their brain is valuable to their success, those people are dying off and retiring and kind of dropping out of the industry. And the smart ones that are willing to share their information are obviously the community is holding them with, super high regard, because that's like, you can't take knowledge with you when you're, in the ground. But yeah, my favorite part is interaction with people. I get to talk with people in just such cool and varied industries that, like I said, we would never cross paths unless we had a common interest like machining. So yeah, that's my favorite part. My least favorite part is dealing with couriers. I want to pay a courier to take my product from here and bring it to you. That's what you're paying for. That's what I'm paying for. And just when that doesn't go well, it's rather annoying. And thankfully, I've had very few instances where I've had to deal with that. I've automated a lot of the processes, so I don't have to deal with that. It just kind of happens and it works. But when I do, that's the least fun part. Dealing with couriers is far worse than dealing with like a machine that's acting up or a process that I can't fix, because it's in their hands. There's nothing I can do to make them work faster. But when it's here, I can always make it better because I can just, think about it harder or whatnot. So yeah. Other than pen body milling styles in the works, exotic materials, or exotic materials you want to use, materials you don't want to use. Okay, so we've talked about materials I want to use in design styles, but materials that I don't want to use. Dusty materials, dusty and abrasive materials. I would actually like to do some pen work in like carbon fiber, but it's such an abrasive and dusty material, and then kind of keeping your machines clean of it is just, annoying. So if it's dusty and if it's abrasive, I'm probably going to stay away from it. If it's hard to machine, like if it's something crazy like Inconel, I would love to do an Inconel pen. It's stupid difficult to machine, but there's no downsides other than just, blowing up tools. That's our dusty and abrasive materials I will stay away from. Assuming the new equipment you've required will help boost production to keep up with demand, will there be an easier means of obtaining your pens in the future? I hope so. The whole point of investing in some of this equipment is, yes, to increase production. I would love to get production to the point where I have so much that I have stock. That is my goal. If I can have stock on my website of pens in all variants and all flavors, that would be fantastic, because that means I can put my focus towards something else. I can bring other cool products into the world. That's what I want to do. Like I have a million ideas I want to bring into the world, and I think I could do a really good job with a lot of them, but I can't put a ton of focus into that until I have time to do so. Hopefully that would make buying pens easier. Like I said, I am considering pre-sales. I am considering a million options. There's not a week that doesn't go by where somebody emails me, an idea that they have for me to sell pens in a different manner, and I appreciate it. I appreciate all the feedback. Sometimes it's just moving the ball to different areas, like it moves the problem up and down, or moves the bottleneck up and down. Some people have some really good ideas, but I feel like right now the lottery-based system is about the most fair system I can do, contrary to what some people say on the internet. But once again, can't read all the comments. Hello, Kurt. I am fairly new to the community and watched some of your process videos on Instagram. Just a few questions. How did your childhood influences shape your journey to where you are today? Did your business evolve differently from where you had originally envisioned? And finally, what advice would you give to somebody just starting out what you do? I'd love to ask you a million more questions about your pens, but I've already seen everything I wanted to ask posted by others. I appreciate it and love what you do. I'm going to get a drink of water and then we'll answer that one. And we're back. All right. So, obviously, thank you very much for your kind words. I was super lucky to have a bunch of people in my, childhood, growing up, that absolutely influenced where I am today. My stepdad is a huge one. He's like super particular, he's an incredible like craftsman in his own right. And he definitely taught me when I was younger and way less into producing quality things, just slow down and do things well. It's a lot easier to do something at half the speed, but have it perfect, as opposed to doing it at twice the speed and have it, not so great. And that was hard lesson to learn at the time when I was young, just because I just had a million things that I always wanted to do. But as I get older, that's been easier and easier to go down. And now it's something that it's like I'm passionate about, like geeking out and trying to like do something better and better and better is a huge draw and interest to me. And I don't have to fight it anymore. Like it's a natural way I want to go, and leads to high quality products, which is, I don't want to toot my horn too much, but that is probably part of the reason that I have a little bit of success in doing this. My grandfather was also a sheet metal worker, and he had a cool shop. Like I just always remember being little, and once again, very skilled, could build a bunch of things. Was welding and was fantastic, just restored like hundreds of cars, just did really high quality work. Getting exposed to that when you're little was instrumental in showing me that like you can make a really good living with your hands. You don't have to work a 9 to 5. You can kind of fashion your own career. Like a lot of people in my life were entrepreneurs, if you want to say it that way. They built their own businesses. My stepdad has his own business. My grandfather has his own business. My dad has his own business. Like it's just, that was kind of in my little world growing up. And so yeah, that was a huge move and push towards building that. Obviously my mom told me to get an education just in case that doesn't pan out, so I did that too, but this is where my passion lies, and I'm glad that I kind of make that into a business. Did my business evolve differently from where I originally envisioned? Honestly, for the most part, I feel like I've been a passenger more than I've been a driver in this rocket ship that I'm currently on. Not to say that I'm not steering the ship at all. Like I'm definitely doing things that I know will advance, to the next stage, to the next stage, to the next stage. But a ton of it has just been kind of a surprise as well. Like if you would have told me a year ago that I'd be building, X amount of pens and selling out in seconds, I would have said, not a chance. Like, no, that seems craziness. Because I wasn't at the point, I didn't have the community behind me. But then other thing that other people fail to realize is the world is big. There's a lot of people here. You don't have to market to a lot of people to be swamped as a one-man shop. Like if you have a product people want and you have a fraction of a percent of people that are interested in it, like you're set for life for orders. Like that's just a lot of things to crank through. So once again, I'm just super fortunate in that regard that I've had enough social media presence to get my name and the word out there that it's kind of like just pushing a snowball down a hill. As long as you keep producing a good quality product and you stay, somewhat active in the community, and you don't, make a bunch of enemies, it's very easy for that snowball just to kind of keep growing. Snowball's kind of a bad analogy, but you know what I mean. It doesn't take a ton of effort to keep going. You just can't let up. You can't produce a poor quality item. That's the death knoll. Anyways. Finally, what advice would you give to somebody just starting out what you do? Do something. That's my main piece of advice. I have so many messages from people that reach out to me, say, hey, I want to build this. What do you think? And I'll always give them my opinion. Be like, yeah, I think that's a really cool idea. I think you could do with this. Whatever they're asking me, if I have knowledge on it, I will share as much as I possibly can. So many of those people, I just never hear from. I never hear from them again. And most of them tell me like, I'm going to do this. I'll reach back out to you. I'm like, perfect. Once you build it, send me a picture. Like I will do whatever. I'll champion your product as much as I can. A ton of them don't. A ton of people don't, because thinking about the idea is like huge. Like we get so much of a dopamine rush just from thinking of an idea that actually doing it doesn't sometimes give you as much of a rush. And the doing is the hard part, but unfortunately the doing is where you'll learn everything too. You can think about something till you're like going numb, but doing something like just building one pen taught me so much about building a pen. So yeah, my advice would be to whatever you're doing, just do it. Just get something out there. If you're building a physical product, just build something. People will tell you what you've done wrong, and you'll learn so much more that way. If you're building a digital product, just get something in people's hands. Just put it out there. See if there's interest in behind it. Like, don't sink tons of your time into something that maybe nobody likes. Or, maybe someone will find it absolutely amazing. And the faster you can iterate on that, the better. So do something. Just do something. The world is full of people that have ideas. Ideas are not special. I don't... when people say I'm the idea man, it's like we're all idea men, or women. We're all idea people. Ideas are the easy part. Execution, that's the hard part. Anyways, yeah, I appreciate the question. That was a cool question. Your pens have a reputation for being extremely high quality, excellent fit and finish. What's your QA process like? What percentage of pens don't pass? First of all, thank you for the very kind words. When I say it, it sounds super braggadocious, but I'm reading someone's question. I did pay them a lot of money to write that, but anyways, besides the point. My QA process is just to make something that I'm happy to stand behind. Like every single pen I've made, I am happy to release it into the wild. There's not something I make where I'm like, ooh, hopefully the customer doesn't see this. Like that part just doesn't make it out the door because at night I won't sleep well. I sleep like a baby knowing that everything I produce, I'm producing to the best ability I can. Unfortunately, that also changes as the years go on. Like the things I've produced when I first started off, if I did that right now, I'd be like, whoa, that's a little rough. But you don't know what you don't know. And I'm sure in 5 years' time, I'll look back at what I'm doing now and be like, oh, I could have made improvements here. That's my quality process, is don't cut corners. And I mean, that's to the expense of my business for sure. I know I could for certain make more money if I just lessened the quality a little bit. But that's short-term thinking. I'm trying to think real long-term. And if I have a giant group of people that consider what I make high quality, they'll take a chance on me for pretty much anything. And that's been the case. I've definitely had people that say, you made this, it's fantastic, I will buy a bunch more. Like I've told you, I've shared your product with my friends. Like that makes so much of a difference. When someone is happy with what you made, like you have a customer for life. And if you don't have the customer for them, like they're going to champion you to every single friend or acquaintance they have. You have one chance to make a first impression. If it's a poor impression, you can never, ever recover it. If it's a good first impression, you're golden. Like that's the golden ticket. That's my QA process. What percentage of pens don't pass? At the start, a decently high percentage. For the most part, I could rework a lot of things to bring them up to the quality I wanted to. If they didn't make the cut, they basically just went into the friends and family pile. I think there's a question about that later. Lately, it's my scrap rate is pretty low. I'd say it's between 1% and 5% of the pens I produce that just end up going straight into the trash because I've made a mistake on it. For the most part, it's usually just a tool blows up on one of the my processes, and it scraps that part, and then the next one is great. So yeah, I have a pretty low scrap rate, but that's part of the reason I don't produce in huge batches, because if I make a mistake, or if there's an error in a certain part that's being machined, it's a lot easier to correct for it if you're not sitting on hundreds of parts of poor stock. That's also what forces people, I think, to just produce a poor quality product. Is let's say a specific, let's say you're making a round cylinder and it's slowly degrading with time, the tooling is starting to wear out, but you have 1,000 of them. You're not just going to scrap 1,000 of them, you're going to sell them. So maybe you sell them at a little bit of a discount, or maybe you give it to somebody and you hope they don't notice. That's all just shooting yourself in the foot. So small batches, that helps a lot too. You can eat it. I can throw away material and not have to take the risk of trying to hide something from a customer, because nobody wants that. It's not a fun way to go. Hey Kurt, I'm also interested in a J-bolt version. When can you provide this configuration as an option? Like I said, that is coming. It's 100% going to be an option. I don't know exactly how I'll work it in as an option, but it's going to be a variable in my code, so I can machine either on the machine with a little effort on my part. It's coming. It's in the works. Have you tried any experiments, anodizing, etc., that haven't worked out? And what happens with the rejects? Oh, like 1,000. Yeah, I have so many things that don't work out. I constantly am trying things. They just go into a big bin, a box that I have sitting behind me here, of just stuff that's didn't pan out. And for the most part, I use that for testing. A lot of those parts are still perfectly good parts for other things, so I'll use them for a fit up for something else, or if I want to do a really weird something, I just have a collection of every single part that's wrong in some sense. Some of the better ones that are only just a little bit wrong, I'll put into my friends and family bin, and then I'll just kind of assemble pens for friends or family. And usually those will get like a really weird serial number, or I'll note the serial number down, or I'll put like experimental one or something, or put lines through it or whatnot, just so that if they ever do make it into the wild, I know that's not like it was never supposed to be in the wild. But yeah, that's where most of the rejects go. It's just into my pile of shame, the box of shame. The box of shame is quite useful though for research and testing, so has a purpose. I don't want to fill it all that fast though. Good day, Kurt. Long time, first time, yada yada. Your pens are, they actually wrote that. I'm not paraphrasing. Your pens are my favorite bolt action pens. Oh, thank you. How does your family view your job obsession with machining and pens? Was there a process of finding a balance of family work during your transition to full time? So I touched on this earlier a little bit, but the my family initially, I'm pretty sure they all thought I was going to starve when I told them I was going to make pens on my garage for a living. I mean, they all definitely believed in me. It's not like they didn't believe that they all believed I could do it, but I don't think they really understood the depth of or the volume in this world. like I said earlier, multi-million-dollar companies building pens. Like that's people don't understand that's out there. So now that they're a little bit more in tune and they've kind of seen my last year track record, they're much more on board. But they never. I'm not trying to say this in a bad light. My family was supportive of me the whole time. I also had a job that let me, like I said, really throttle my hours back working my old full-time job that let me kind of shift over into doing pens full-time. That was absolutely invaluable. I mean, that gave me a lot more family time, because when you're trying to do a full-time job and grow a business, you have no time, and the time you do have should be spent on sleeping. So I actually have a lot more family time now just doing this full-time, which is kind of weird to think about, but yeah, that would be my best suggestion. If you're trying to like pursue your own little racket, find a job that will let you kind of slowly ease into it. Because for me, it was less of a jump and more of a shuffle. I think I wrote that down too, because I like that. Yeah, more of a shuffle into a full-time job. Seems lonely in that garage. Ever think of bringing in a helper mascot, a dog, or even a plant? Yeah, I mean, plant, the window I kind of keep covered just to get some nice filtered light in here. So I don't know if a plant would be super happy. But I do have a dog and a cat, and the cat does not want to be in here. The dog really has no interest in being here as well. They're welcome in anytime, but yeah, they typically poke their head in and see what I'm doing and just kind of peace out. So yeah, those are my closest mascots I have. Maybe I should put some more plants in here. That might not be a bad idea. I do like plants. I have a bunch in my house, just zero in here. Plants are distractions from production. Anyways, I know a bunch of people will ask you, but when will we've touched on this one, and millings, we've touched on both of those. I appreciate your question. Moving along. Hello, Kurt. Do you plan on making pens with a different mechanism? Abso-frickin-lutely. Once again, we've touched on that a bunch, so I will just move along. Main issue is just time right now. I just don't have enough time trying to balance production on top of all the, all your demand, all you crazy people out there that want my product. I appreciate you, but you're the reason that I can't do anything else other than production right now. Don't stop. Please don't stop. How do you do the Nebula anodizing? Is it a secret, or can we know the special formula? Thanks, and keep up the great work. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, Nebula anodizing. It's not a secret at all. It's called entropic anodizing. You can look up. There's some fantastic tutorials on how to do it. It's a very simple process. Just heat titanium, dunk it into an acid bath. That's where the simplicity of it ends, because if you just alter any of those things slightly, you get wildly different results. So doing it once is not all that difficult. Doing it hundreds or thousands of times in a row and getting the same result, that's where the fun lies. So yeah, it's I have a lot of experience doing it now, and I still get a little nervous every time I do it, because you can't have one shot at it. You can backwork it a little bit, but it changes the finish. So then you have to reapply the finish to the pen, like whatever, a polished finish or whatnot. So yeah, you got one shot at it, and if you mess it up, it just you can never really get back to just jumping right from the start. So still a little bit of a nerve-wracking process, but yeah, not at all difficult process, but incredibly difficult to master. How did you get into machining? Any tips for someone curious about getting into a new hobby? Well, I'm assuming you're talking about this hobby. I got into it. I fell into this hobby. I was just super into manufacturing tools. I bought a MakerBot 3D printer back when they first came out. The Thingomatic is actually what I purchased. I was always into printers. I built 9 or 10 3D printers. I built my own CNC machines. I think I built 6 or 7 CNC machines. I'm just this has always been a world that I've been passionate about. But to get into it nowadays, it's so much easier. You don't have to build your own. You could buy a CNC router for next to nothing nowadays. You can buy an inexpensive lathe for next to nothing. You can buy an inexpensive mill for next to nothing. If you have a bit more budget, you can buy a Tormach for a decent price. It's a very easy world to get into right now. There's so much knowledge out there. There is so many YouTube videos. It is when I was getting into this, forums were super active still. I would read a ton of forums. Forums were honestly already starting to peter out then. Just kind of in favor of YouTube was starting to really take their lunch. But yeah, now there's just so many resources out there to get into it. And if you have a makerspace near you, or a friend that has a bunch of equipment, that's definitely a way to kind of dip your toe into it. Or just do what I did. I just bought a cheap little lathe and just played. I had an apartment at the time. I brought it into one of my little spare rooms in my apartment and just machined and, you know, filled the little room with smoke and oil and blew it out the window. And yeah, anyways, lots of ways you can do it. Just do something. Just do it. Hey Kurt, do you have a favorite material to make pens in, or a favorite anodizing color or anodization color? Sounds like a cop-out, but my favorite material is titanium because it's cool. I like all the material aspects of it. You know, its strength, its lightness, the way it can anodize. You know, it's kind of impervious to everything. The chips it makes are fairly soft. It's kind of a bear to machine, but once you get the knack of it, and once you kind of have the recipes dialed, it's a nice material to work with. I really enjoy working with titanium, which is why all my pens are made from it. It takes anodizing super well. You get crazy vibrant colors. That's something I absolutely love. My favorite anodizing color, I love the like super punchy purple, pink, blue kind of fades. I have a few of those in my daily carry, just because, yeah, I like punchy colors. And then I also like black, super muted out colors. So yeah, I'm all over the spectrum. But yeah, favorite material, titanium. Plus, when you give someone something and you say it's made out of titanium, their eyes light up. Like, it's not like, it's like, oh, it's made out of stainless. They're like, oh yeah, it looks like stainless. Like, you tell them it's titanium, they're like, ooh, titanium, magic metal. It's like, you just don't encounter titanium in your day-to-day world, or like most normal people. Everybody that I'm, you know, talking to here, they're like, oh, I have 9 pieces of titanium products on me. It's like, of course you do. But, you know, the general person, they don't access titanium. They see titanium and they think spaceships and, like, you know, jet fighters. Which they should, because it's the same stuff. Moving on. Awesome. AMAs would be a cool monthly activity. Oh, that would kill my voice. Kurt, we have all seen the successful models, but what about the rejected prototypes, finishes, or materials? It would be cool to see them, and maybe the community digs them more than you think. Have a nice day, y'all. That's a great point. I should actually show a lot more of my rejected products, because, yeah, maybe people are more interested in it. There's lots, like I said, I have a bin full of just things that didn't pan out, tumbling methods or blasting methods I had, or anodizing ideas I had, or just tons of stuff that just doesn't work out. I don't know. That's, I've toyed with some other things. I made a click cap pen. I made, I don't know, probably about 20 of them. There's a bunch in the wild. I get reports back from a few of them once in a while. It was a workable design. I will probably eventually revisit it in some sort of sense. It just, like I said, as I get better at machining and kind of get further into this world, the complexity of things just lights up my brain more. Like, I don't want to make a pen that has like a screw-on cap. It's not very exciting to me unless I can put some crazy flair into it. I want something complicated, and that also has a side benefit of keeping people from copying you. Because if you do something that's very difficult and it's not easy to do, not a lot of people want to copy that. Ton of people want to copy something very simple that they think they can make a buck at. So it's kind of my like secret way to like, you know, copyright, if you want to think of it that way, is just make things really complicated and sell them at a fair price, and no one will follow you because it's madness. That way lies madness. Hi Kurt, will there ever be a copper or brass confounded machine pen made? I made a bunch of brass ones and a bunch of copper ones. They were just like screw cap ones that I made way back in the day, right after I just talked about how I don't want to make screw cap pens. But when I started off, I made a whole gang of those. This current design doesn't lend itself well to either of those materials, but that's not to rule them out. I do like those materials. I do have some, you know, things that I interact with daily that are, you know, made out of those more less fancy pants metals, but they have a, I don't know, they have a cool feeling, and they patina, and they kind of have a little life of their own. So yeah, for sure I will play with those materials, just probably not with this design because it just doesn't lend itself well to it. How do you find time to make new designs or prototypes while keeping up with your current demand? Short answer is I don't have enough time to put any kind of work into researching new designs, because right now I'm just swamped with production. Once again, not complaining. It's a lovely problem to have. I would not want it the other way. I would not want to have copious amounts of time to try to make new products to, you know, capture the market and, you know, just be sitting on a warehouse of things that nobody wants. This way is way better. I will eventually figure it out. But today is not that day. I'm still swamped with orders. So ask me again in 6 months. We'll see where we're at. Do you take special orders? Like if I were to win the lottery and wanted a different color than you currently, or that you currently don't have? Short answer, no. I don't take special orders just because I feel like it's unfair to everybody else. I mean, there's people that have been on my lottery list that have been waiting years to purchase a pen from me. I thank you so much. That is ridiculous. I get it. I get it that it's annoying. And if I were to take a custom order, that's kind of like pushing those people back further, because a custom order is always going to take me more time than I think it will, and it's just going to slow down the process. That's the main reason I don't take them anymore. It's the main reason I don't do like, large batch corporate work. It's just, it takes away from my core group of people that have put me here. Those are the people I want to show my appreciation to, is, the people that are waiting to just purchase a product from me, which is insane to think about. Like, I appreciate that. So yeah, no custom work. Not right now, unfortunately. Hi, Kurt. Thanks for doing what you do. Do you have any new patterns in the works? We've talked a little bit about that one, so I'll kind of gloss past that. Thanks for the question. Any thoughts on opening up to special orders that would bypass the lottery? Like maybe pay a premium to guarantee a pen with a personal customization. Might be a slippery slope on that one, but I figured I'd ask. Absolutely a slippery slope is what I mean to say. I feel like that's, once again, going against the people. There's so many people in this community that have helped me, not purely in a monetary sense. Like, I have people that have purchased tons of pens from me that have, financially supported me massively, and I appreciate that. But I also have people that have shared my, product. Let's say they bought one pen from me, but they've been vocal on every form of social media to everybody they've ever known. Like, they've brought in more customers and more interest and more eyeballs to me than one person ordering, whatever, half a dozen units from me over a period of time. So those are the people that I want to thank. And some of those people aren't people that are just going to be able to shell out, 2-3 times over the price of a pen to, like, let's say buy a premium spot. Let's say I sold a premium spot for like an extra $100 on a pen. I guarantee I have people that'll do that instantly because maybe they're in a position where they can financially do that. But I don't know. It feels greasy. Does not feel right. Don't want to do it. Maybe there's a way I can work it in the future, but right now a lottery system seems to be the most fair. I don't know. I'm literally trying to do this in a way that makes me feel good at night. Like, there's no smoke and mirrors. I'm just trying to be fair is all I'm doing. If I didn't want to be fair, it'd be so much easier. It's much easier to, like, not be fair. So yeah, I put a lot of effort into trying to balance the system, and I know a ton of you understand that, and I appreciate the kind words. What machines do you use in your shop, and are you hiring for a QC position? Oh, I am never hiring. My old job, I worked basically. It ended up I worked with machines at the start, but I slowly started to get into more of a people managing role, and I do like people, but I don't want to work with people. That's the whole reason I'm working as a little introvert in my shop here alone. So yeah, I'm sure it's a joke, but yeah, no QC position, no position here at all. What machines do you use in my shop? Right now, I basically use the big hard-hinge HNC lathe that I converted over to like a modern control. I have my little Grizzly mill that still does a bunch of 4th axis work. I have the big manual lathe that I just recently purchased that does a ton of basically just clean up on pen parts and some OD body turning. I have my little tiny tag lathe that does a ton of polishing and some really fine tiny work. Then I have the Sile X5 mill that's doing majority of the 3-axis and then soon to be most of the 4-axis work. So that's all the equipment I have here, and then like laser cutters and printers and whatnot. But yeah, that's all the main equipment. Laser cutters they're their own little special creature in their own right. They deserve that thing deserves a raise. It pulls its weight. Have you ever thought of making textured, carved, chiseled body designs? So that's basically, I'm assuming what they're talking about is, I think the Epica pens are doing a fantastic run of it right now, where you have a nice pen and then it looks like someone's attacked it with like a grinding wheel and made a bunch of scallops in it. Kind of looks like it was maybe carved from stone. They're super cool. They're super pretty. I have a few of those in my pile of shame, or my box of shame, that just didn't turn out well. So it's something I definitely want to do. The pen I'm currently producing is very thin-walled, so I don't have a lot of room to carve. But I would like to do some like machined carving on it, which is less like custom because it's not like a one-off. But it would let me produce it at scale and kind of really control the look. I don't know. Maybe that takes the je ne sais quoi out of it, but I don't know. I would like to experiment with it. It's not the 3D design I'm working on right now is nothing like that. It is like the polar opposite of that. But it would be fun to work on that. I think some guys are doing it really well out there. So I will let them continue to do it well. Eventually I'll get into it, but once again, today is not that day. What's your favorite pen currently? Oh, sacrilegious. A Micron. That's the pen I write with the most, mainly because it's super light, and I kind of carry like a little journal with me everywhere, and it just fits alongside it. I use my pen for like signing things and just for like jotting notes down, but for like some long duration writing, I find it kind of like any kind of metal pen is just too heavy. I'll actually talk about that a little bit later on in this whole ginormous video. But yeah, a Micron is probably my favorite pen. They're like $4 or $5. Fine liners of any sorts, but specifically, I enjoy the Microns. Moving along. Thanks for doing this. Have you ever made or planned to make a lefty specific bolt? That kind of falls into the option for changing the J diameter option, or like the direction of the pen. So yes, that is coming. Hi Kurt, I've seen a number of your vlogs and stories of becoming a solo maker. It's inspiring. Getting over the initial hump of 0 to 1 seems quite intimidating from afar. So my question is, as you were getting started, did you have any major doubts or challenges, and what kept you going through those times? I was lucky enough that when I started this whole racket, I was doing it purely as like a hobby interest thing. I didn't have to depend on it. I didn't need to sell anything. Honestly, the first reason I ended up selling something is someone expressed interest in purchasing something. I was like, you know what? Maybe other people would be interested in this. So that was the first way I went from selling 0 products to 1 product. I listed it on Etsy. I made the Machinist Pen Mark 1, which was a brass pen with an aluminum grip that I kind of pressed over it. And I sold a gang of those over the, however year or so that I was slowly kind of getting my feet wet in this industry. And that got me over that 0 to 1 kind of, where you don't have any products out there, and then you have one or a few products out there, and you have maybe a review or two, and then that slowly starts to grow and helps other people want to buy your product. But I think the gentleman's name was, I'll say his first name was Charlie. He bought my first pen that I ever produced for sale anyways. Yeah, thank you a bunch. If I ever run into you, I would love to buy you a drink, because that was just kind of turned on a little light in my brain and be like, hey, people will buy a product I make. Like, that is a super cool, like, kind of liberating experience. And that just fueled the like desire to do this. So that's my main my main moving force to keep doing this. Is like I've said a few times, it's like a video game. Where there's no high score, like there's no limit to the high score. And I don't mean that like financially, I just mean that as in like a growth general term. Is if I want to push it further, I can push it further. If I want to move it a different way, I can move it a different way. Like, there's no limits. It's not like, well, no matter how hard I work, with Mr. Jenkins in the wire factory, I'm never going to make more than this. I'm never going to be more than, shop supervisor. Like, you can take this anywhere. You can take your business anywhere. I mean, obviously with the limits of what people want to buy from you, or like, what the market will bear. But there's no limits. So that's my main like motivating moving factor or my most inspiring thing is just like that excites me. Just the whole like, how far can we take this thing? That's what kind of pushes me through the challenges. Do I have major doubts and challenges? Yeah, like, I don't know, challenges all the time. There's always something that comes up. I've been doing this for years now. I build the same thing over and over and over. I still run into challenges where I'm like, how in the hell did that happen? And yeah, what motivates me to push through that is just, once again, like, I could sit here and try to figure that problem out, or I could be working at whatever, Hank's Wire Factory, whatever I just said earlier. Like, I'm like, if I'm gonna focus and work hard on something, I may as well focus and work hard on something for me that's gonna benefit me directly. I don't want to push someone else's agenda forward. And that's not throwing shade at people that work for somebody else. I worked for somebody else for a long time. I very much enjoyed that. I did not enjoy that, but I enjoy working for me a lot more, even though it is probably less lucrative initially, and it is definitely way more work and way more stress. I still would not trade it 1,000 times over. So yeah, that would be my that's what gets me through those times. Is just I literally enjoy doing this, and it's exciting. It's never like I said, I can drive it wherever I want. I can drive the bus wherever I want. Hey Kurt, what pen, if any, inspired you to start making your own? There wasn't a specific pen. I honestly didn't even know about machined pens when I started machining pens. I only learned about that like after I started to kind of read and just research more about what other people were doing. Then I started to realize like, oh, there's other people that are actually doing this. So I kind of just fell into it. But what inspired me? I mean, there's people that inspired me. I shouldn't say a pen in its own instance, but all the major pen makers I talked about that, should have had their faces carved into mountains or whatever, they definitely inspired me. There were some other makers that had YouTube channels back when I was kind of just getting into this. Grimsmo, I followed him, obviously. Saunders, NYC, CNC, all those guys I definitely closely followed, and they were just obviously inspirational. And Calvin, honestly, from Urban Survival Gear. When I first started this, he was working in his garage, and it was just so inspiring for me to see that someone can have such a successful business running out of a fairly small garage. Like, he had equipment just packed in there. He's also a super cool dude. I talked to him a few times, and yeah, he's a wonderful member of the community. He's definitely given back as hard as he can. And we're back. I had to put a sweater on. It's now getting cold in here. I turned the heat down. Anyways, next question. My question is simple. What's next? My understanding is that Kurt has an interest in puzzles, flashlights, and other EDC. It'd be cool to see something like a custom leather wallet with a really nice bill clip or other features, or a nice flashlight, or a tungsten scribe. Thank you. Thank you for the question. What's next? It's probably not gonna be any like leather work, whatnot like that. Everything's gonna be machining related. I do like leather work. That's one of those things that someone else can do really well that I kind of find interesting. So that's a skill that I don't have super high amount of proficiency with, that some people do super well. So leather work, that's one of them from the super earlier questions. Puzzles, of course, I have a super big interest in puzzles. It's the direction I want to go. It is crazy niche. Those puzzles are probably going to cost thousands of dollars. Not a ton of people are going to buy them. So that's going to be a totally kind of different, more of like a pursuit of passion. I'm sure I'll be able to sell them, but that's going to be a different kettle of fish. Other EDC items, I would love to build a flashlight. I have a flashlight in the works. I have all the components for it. I bought a bunch of flashlights to take them apart, to reverse engineer them. I know exactly what I want. That would be a product I'd very much like to pursue. So, yeah, that would probably be a tungsten scribe. I don't know if I'm going to build something like that. I wouldn't mind building some other kind of pen-shaped item, whether that be a pen knife or a pen light. Those are kind of both interesting to me. But yeah, I don't know. The problem is I have so many interests and so many things I like. It's hard to decide exactly what I want to do. But the puzzle thing, I like that one. I keep kind of coming back to that, and I have been coming back to that for years. So we'll see where that takes us. Right now, pens, lots and lots of pens. Hi Kurt, appreciate you taking the time to answer questions. What metal is your favorite to work with? It doesn't have to be with just pens. What specific properties about this metal make it enjoyable? Thank you. So once again, cop-out answer, titanium. Titanium is one of my favorite materials to work with for reasons I've stated earlier, and just the fact of, like I said, you put a piece of titanium in someone's hand and their eyes open up, because it's not something they encounter all the time. They see it and they're like, wow, cool, titanium. And they're always like, it's so light. So I don't know, it's one of my favorite materials to work with. And like I said, now that I have my processes dialed down for it, I make a lot of things out of it just because I have so much of it here, but I'm so used to machining it. If I switch over to something like aluminum, I don't get the same surface finishes because I'm just used to machining titanium, which would be terrible for a job shop because you should be good at machining everything. But for me, it works fantastic because I basically build everything out of titanium, and I can use magnets in all my machines because it's not magnetic, so it doesn't get attracted to those. Yo, do you have any new designs planned, and what is often your inspiration? I always have designs planned. I have a whole folder, a CAD folder on my computer that whenever I get ideas, I start kind of sketching them up or designing them in there. And that's just overflowing with ideas. If someone builds my exact pen, does it better than me at a half the price and just absolutely crushes my market, I have 1,000 other things to pick from. That's why I always say, like, ideas are not the hard part. Execution is the hard part. So yeah, I don't know. I have 1,000 designs I'm always working on. Just, it's what keeps my brain from atrophying into a little dry sponge. What is often my inspiration? Space. I'm like a huge space dork nerd. Space, all the manufacturing around that, the new telescope that they're building into that, like that, the IsoGrip pen, that's essentially where it came from, is just the whole space industry, because that IsoGrip is based upon the IsoGrid, which is a super common kind of machining method of reducing a bunch of weight of a material but keeping the strength really high. So yeah, space, technology, sci-fi, that's where I get a ton of my inspiration from. And yeah, try to stay in that vein. Many questions, someone says. I would prefer a simpler pattern, just small groups or small grooves with a very fine grip area, frag pattern. Sorry, I'm just kind of paraphrasing because this is a very long one. Some classic patterns. They listed a bunch of cool examples of pens they were talking about. I totally agree with you. I would like to bring back some more classic patterns. I actually like no grip pens. They're some of my favorites lately, just because they're so simple. And if you put like a tumbled finish on it, there's more than enough texture. Even for us like super kind of sweaty fingered people out there, it's still easy to hang on to. But a ring grip pen is something I also want to bring back. Just the way the geometry of the pens has changed when I changed over from basically a female threaded tip to a male threaded tip. It moved, it weakened certain areas of the pen where I can't put grip rings right near the end of the body because it interferes with the threads and it just makes a weak point. So I haven't done a lot of the grip rings, but I'm definitely going to try to bring back some of the more simple designs because yeah, they're kind of, I don't know, I enjoy them as well. But lately I'm kind of also digging the no grips, which are just super, super basic. Hi Kurt, my favorite pen of all is my Confounded Machine Mini. Do you have any plans to bring the mini size back? I do not. Probably not going to bring the mini size back with that refill. It used a G2 mini refill. It was fairly hard to get. That's the reason I stopped making that, is because I would get so many emails from people saying, hey, where can I purchase it? Eventually I purchased enough so I could just sell them to people. But that's not the best way to sell a product. Because the pen, you're going to run through refills, especially if you like the pen, you're going to use it. You're going to constantly be buying refills. And if they're hard to get, that's rather annoying. I am going to bring back a mini pen. I'm also going to do a micro pen. A few things I have in the works. The micro pen is going to have a super esoteric refill, but I mean, that's kind of the point. You're probably not going to use a micro pen like all the time where you're just toasting through refills. So yeah, they will come back in a sense, but not the mini in the G2 mini form factor. Unless I get like 1,000 emails from people, but no, I think that's gonna kind of just live as it is. So if you have one, that's probably the last mini that I'll build for now. Once again, ask me in 6 months. Right? Things always change. What design is your favorite? Right now has to be the IsoGrip, just because it's new and I put a ton of work into it and I'm very pleased with the way it's machined, especially considering it's coming off of my little modified Grizzly mill. The finishes are fantastic. Like, they're really pretty. Even under a microscope, a lot of the finishes are really nice to look at. So yeah, I'm very proud of that pen. I'm very proud of that pattern. It takes ages to make, which is why it costs so much money. But it's my favorite right now. That will once again change. Load more comments. Oh, this is never ending. There is so many. Thank you all for your questions. Like I said, I could do this for ages. I have been doing this for ages, but I will continue to do it because it's quite fun to read through. Hey Kurt, perfect product or perfect process? Thanks for not only sharing as much as you do, but also for being so accessible and engaged with those who interact with you. Also, love your pens. Thank you so much. Very kind of you to say. I know this gentleman, he actually makes pens as well. Super cool guy. Perfect product or perfect process? Always perfect process. There's no such thing as a perfect product. If you have a perfect product, you're just not trying hard enough. A perfect process probably also doesn't exist, but it's much easier to get a process closer to perfect than it is to get a pen closer to perfect, or a product closer to perfect. In my case, that's a pen. How's that for alliterations? Yeah, I geek out about machining and the whole machining world and finding efficiencies and doing things better and optimizing. So a process is interesting to me. And also interacting with this community. You don't have to thank me for that. Like, this is the highlight of what I do. I very much enjoy it. Thank you all for, letting me do this, giving me enough interest that, recording, which is probably going to be a 2+ hour video. We'll have a few people listening to it. I mean, I might upload this and, 3 people will listen to it, but hey, you know what? If 3 people listen to it, I'm glad you 3 people enjoyed it. Next question. Heck yeah. Kurt, do you have plans to make a full-length pen in G2? I'm beginning to collect them. Yeah, G2 pen and an Energel are the same flavor. So yes, it is coming out. It will not be a sword like my previous Energel ones. I've found ways to make them significantly more compact. So yes, if Energel comes out, it'll work with G2. Or if it, I think maybe G2 and Energel may have different tips. Can't quite remember now. It's been a while since I played with those. But yeah, it will absolutely. G2 is my favorite refill, so of course it will. Will you be making any left-handed versions? How about the Energel versions? Both answered. Thank you so much for your question. Yes to both of those. Next question. Let's talk tesseract patterning. Yes? Oh, yes. Yes, of course. Tesseracts, I love that shape. Dimension? I don't know how you want to refer to it as. If you don't know, it's basically like a cube inside a cube with the corners connected. It's a way to try to visualize a fourth dimension. Once again, leaning heavily into the sci-fi nerd space details. I, oddly enough, had a design for one of the puzzle things I'm working on is based around a tesseract, just because it's such a cool shape. It's technically not possible to represent in our 3D world, but yeah, it's yeah, tesseracts are cool. Look them up. It's super space dork stuff. It was mentioned above, but I'm also curious if there are any plans to venture into other different refill types. Absolutely. Once again, horse that has been beaten to death. Where do you find inspiration when it comes to your design and coloring? The design, I feel like I've always been tweaking on this design and slowly modifying it, but there hasn't been any like monumental changes to the design. So like drawing inspiration from that, like I guess the patterning is probably where I've drawn the most inspiration from. Like I said, it's from mainly space and, you know, all that kind of jazz. As for coloring, I love punchy colors. So titanium lends itself well to that, makes super vibrant colors. I just try to make them as vibrant as I possibly can. I should do another run of super punchy fade colors because I do enjoy that. I know it's not for everybody. Some people just like more subdued colors, or standard solid colors, but I like the just over the top unicorn vomit kind of ones. Will you be offering a zirconium pen? If so, when? Yes, of course. Once again, we've covered that one, but when is the key question or key part of that question? I don't know when. I would like to tell you a specific time. I have a time in my head, but I don't really want to say that because about 6 months ago, I said that I would be producing one in, you know, a few months time. And well, that's 6 months ago. And here we are still with one produced. So I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I'd rather underpromise and overdeliver. That seems like the more fun way to go. Hey Kurt, thanks for taking the time to do this. What's your all-time favorite go-to pen? Also, can we get a pre-order at some point? All-time favorite pen right now, honestly, is the Micron. It has been forever. Either the Copic, I like the Copic fine liners, and the Microns as well. They're my favorite pens to write with. Like I said, if I could design a pen around them, I would. Just it's proving to be rather annoying. And honestly, I don't know if a ton of people love writing in fine liners, but I very much like the technical nature of a little fine liner pen. Can we get a pre-order? Yes and no. Pre-order just moves the problem further ahead or further down. Like I said, if I find a method that works well, yes. But I'm still trying to find something that works decently well. It's just not super easy. I just can't have a monster pre-order. And if I have a small one, it just can sell out instantly again. So yeah, I'm working on it. I'm thinking of ideas. People always chime in with good suggestions. Some people just want to vent. I get it. It's annoying. But some people honestly have some pretty good topics. So I appreciate the feedback. Good or bad, I appreciate all the feedback. How did you end up with your current size of pen? What decisions went into the length and thickness? Will we see longer, shorter, thicker, thinner pens in the future? What about different materials? Thanks. Keep killing it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You guys are helping me kill it. I'm just the guy running the levers and cranks. You guys are putting the fuel in the ship here. The dimensions of the pen were based primarily around the refill. So I got the refill. I figured out how much it would have to move forward and backwards and design the entire pen around that. As I've been able to tweak it and make it a little bit smaller as I've found ways to kind of get better with machining. But for the most part, that's how I designed the pen. The thickness, I found 3/8 just felt nice in my hands. So I bought stock that was just a little bit over 3/8 so I could turn it down to size. And then most people say that they appreciate that size of pen because a lot of pens on the market are bigger than that. The reason they're bigger than that is because everything is pretty tight on a 3/8 diameter pen. So people usually go a little bit bigger, but just even a small amount kind of can feel like you're holding like a, you know, those really big crayons or those really big pencils you used to have in school, or like the can we say gifted among us had when we were young, where it was like really big so it was easier to hold. That's kind of what it feels like when I hold a thicker pen. So I like a fairly thin pen, so I try to make them as thin as I can. That's why I ended up with that. Will we see shorter, thicker, thinner, whatnot? Probably, like I said, for if I want to play with different materials, they have to go a little bit thicker. So I have some Ultims sitting on my desk right now that's 1/2 inch, and it'll probably be machined down to like 4 or 5 diameter, which would be a fat little pen, but I think it'd be a kind of cool feeling. Nice and light too. That's kind of why I want to go down that road, is make a very lightweight pen. Part of the reason I love using those micron pens is they're very light, so your hand, you don't get any fatigue in your hand from writing with for a long period of time. What made you start this passion of pen machining, and do you eventually plan to make pens out of exotic materials? Yes. As for like I want to play with the crazy exotics. I want to play with like superconductor and meteorite. Some of the other exotics just don't appeal to me, like, you know, Damasteel and Mokutai and some of the weird kind of alloys. I don't find them very appealing to look at. But like some of the fun one, like crystal tie, I kind of want to play with that. It's just, yeah, those are the exotics I want to play with. What made me start this passion? I mean, I've always kind of been into pens. Like I said, I walk through stationery stores and look at pens, look at paper. It's just, I'm interested. I write daily. I carry a journal with me. It's something I interact with daily. I honestly, my like super overarching thing is just to replace everything I interact with daily with things I've made. So that's like things I interact with daily would be like a flashlight, a pen, a knife. Do I want to make a knife? No. Do I want to make maybe some sort of like pokey substitute? Probably. Yeah, just replace everything I interact with. But yeah, the passion for this just started with pens, and I didn't really intend on kind of carrying through with pens for this long, but it's proven to be fruitful in my business here, and I enjoy it. I dig it. I still haven't tired about playing in this arena. So we'll continue down until I get sick of it, and then we'll, I don't know, start knitting doilies or something. What new pen styles are you planning on making? Maybe a dragon scale variant? Like I said, talked about that 3D machining. It is far from dragon scale. I think some people are doing dragon scale really well, but I don't really want to do it, so probably won't see a dragon scale from me. What is your favorite type of mechanism for a machined pen, and why? So my favorite mechanism is a mechanism I don't build, and that's a click mechanism. And the only reason it's my favorite mechanism is because I think it's the most fidgetable mechanism. And I'm talking about a true click mechanism. That means, in my opinion anyways, a true click means you press the button down, the pen extends, you press the button again, the pen retracts. There's no secondary, different latching method or unlatching method. I think those have their own like merit and their own fidget factor to them. But for me, a true click mechanism is a single button that you can press and it retracts and extends. I think it's the most fidgetable design, and I also think it's the most known. Like anytime I hand one of my pens to somebody, almost the first thing they do, especially if they're not like a pen dork, is they try to press the back. Like they try to squish the end cap down, even though there's really no reason. Like it doesn't look like it should move. And then they see there's a bolt action on the side, and they're like, oh, that's how it actuates. But I feel like that's the most like natural way to cycle a pen as a click. So yeah, that's what I want to pursue. That's probably my favorite mechanism because it's crazy complicated too, especially to get it to work well. It's not trivial. Yes, I'd love to know if there's any plans to sell alternate springs. I love the tension and resistance level of the older style pens compared to the new ones. I've never had success in using the spacers provided with the new ones. So the spacers they're talking about is I had different size spacers to slightly alter the spring rate. Some people have wanted a much heavier spring rate in pens. I like a light spring rate. So I obviously build what I like. Most of the community seems to like a lighter spring rate, and as your pen quality gets better, you can put a lighter spring rate in there because it makes the mechanisms feel smoother. If you have a gritty or not a very good sliding mechanism or deployment mechanism, you have to use a heavy spring in order for it to work, and it doesn't feel good. So I like something that's nice and fidgetable, but yet doesn't rattle when you shake it. That was my main pick. That's why I picked this specific spring rate. This specific spring rate is also a very specifically sized spring that fits into this pen with the close tolerances I have, and getting a different rate has proven to be very difficult. I can't machine my own or make my own. The old pens had a higher spring rate because I was able to make them from titanium wire. I can't get titanium wire in the gauge I want for this pen, which is why I don't make them. Also, making springs is rather tedious, and my time can be best spent elsewhere. But with the movement of this, or with moving towards this new Energel tip, that's going to open up a ton of spring options. So yeah, that'll make it easier to adjust the spring rates, because right now it is difficult to get different spring rates. I'm sorry for that, but I kind of designed myself into a corner where it's hard to change it. Hey Kurt, have you considered expanding into a small team to increase production? If so, why hasn't it happened yet? Absolutely not. That's the last thing I want to do, is hire people and have a team. I worked with a company with a team of people. That's great. It's not something I want to do. It's also something that I don't think is going, I mean, yes, it's probably going to increase production, but I think it's going to have a detrimental effect to my quality and the way that I produce pens. Will it satiate more people and let me get more pens out there? Probably. Once again, it's not something I'm passionate about. I very much enjoy the aspect of me being able to, if I want to stop work at noon and go on a field trip with my kids, I can do that. I mean, I could do that if I had people too, but just I wouldn't be comfortable having people here at my home. So I would have to have a commercial space, which brings on additional overhead, which means I have to increase sales to make up for that. But if you have people that can increase your sales, like, yeah, I get it. It all works out. It's just not, it's not an avenue I want to pursue. I don't ever really want to grow this any bigger than what I can currently do in my garage myself. That's not to say that I don't want help. I just think my help is going to be in robot form. I would love to have much more automated processes, and part of the reason I'm designing some things the way I am is with the hopes of automating them more in the future. So yeah, that would be my people I would hire. Oh, sorry, I have to have a sip of water. Running out of the voice. But yeah, it's also not a silver bullet hiring people. That's cannot. Sometimes it works, sometimes not so much. Sometimes it just changes the problems. Instead of one problem, you just change it for a different problem. So, what lathe do you use? What other tools do you use? What is the precision tolerance used? So lathe, like I've talked about earlier, is my Hardinge HNC, which is the one I've kind of converted over. It's an older lathe. I think it was built in the late 70s, early 80s, so it's older than me. But it's fantastic. It's an oil machine, so it was bathed in oil for its entire life, which means it still meets all factory specs. I have the factory service manual for it, so I was able to check that, which is insane. It can produce parts down to 1/10,000th of an inch without too much difficulty, which is insane. Take a human hair, cut it into about 20 slices. That's about 1/10,000. So I don't typically work in that tolerance. I have a couple parts that are down in about plus minus 1/10,000th of an inch. That's the slider that goes inside the pen. That has to be a nice tight fit up to feel nice. But for most part, most of my tolerances are about plus minus 5/10, half a thou, quarter sheet of paper, something like that. Still very, very tight tolerance. But in the land of precision machining, that's not all that precise. What other tools do I use? There's a whole plethora of them here. I have my little grizzly mill that I've modified a bunch. I have a big manual lathe. I have a small little lathe that I use for polishing, and I just recently purchased a Sile X5 milling machine that handles most of the 3 and soon to be 4th axis work. Where's that confounded bridge? I just put a smiley face with that comment because I don't really know what you're getting at. But thanks for the question. You're in the draw anyways. If someone just asks a question, you're in the running. Hi Kurt, thanks for the opportunity. Where do you see yourself in a year's time with this space? I.e. new pen model released or super efficient workflow with a much higher production speed, etc. In a year's time, I hope to just basically have my efficiencies and production down to a point where I'm not putting 100% of my effort into just manufacturing this product, which is fine. I don't mind putting 100% of my effort into it, but it just makes it very easy or very difficult to iterate on new designs and kind of push forward into, maybe someone's not into metal pens, but they're super into flashlights. I would love to crack into that market. Or maybe they're not interested in any of that, but they're super interested in this like mechanical complexity sculpture thing that I want to do. Like there's so many opportunities, and even if they're crazy niche, there's billions of people in the world. A niche industry can still swamp, a single producer. So in a year's time, where do I see myself is basically I would like to have this production using up 75% of my time as opposed to 100% of it. I think that's a fairly realistic goal. Even if I kept my production at about what my current maximum is, if it only used 75% of my time, but I was able to hold that 100% or the same production I'm doing right now, I would be happy with that. Obviously, I would like to have more production because more production is more pens out the door, which brings in more cash, which lets me do crazier things. But even if I wasn't able to up production any more than that, that would still be ample to run as a business. As in a financial sense, that'd be still a significant amount of money, more than I would be making in my prior job, and it would let me give me the luxuries of being able to explore different things with this business. So yeah, that's what I'm focusing on. Efficiencies of production. Kurt, excited to hear you're doing an AMA. I'll try to come up with a question about penguins, but I don't think that'll fly. What's your coolest and most used EDC item? What's the coolest gadget that you own that's not too useful, but maybe fun to look at or mess with? You may have answered this already, but you recently posted a question asking your Instagram community ideas for pens or something along those lines. Multicolored. Oh, this is a gentleman that was looking for a multicolored pen, like multiple refills in a single pen. What fun ideas did everyone come up with? What was your favorite? And finally, why do cats hate outer space? Think on that for a second. I'll tell you the answer at the end of this little answering spiel. So my coolest and most useful EDC item is a pair of titanium tweezers made by Triaxis. Split 141 on Instagram. Triaxis also on Instagram. I don't think he makes them anymore. They were super cool. They're like little pocket tweezers that pop out of this little holder that you have. They're on me all the time. It's the one thing that I transfer over to every pair of pants I wear. Pen, knife, flashlight, and tweezers. They come with me everywhere. It's weird. Like they're machined very well. The tips close perfectly. Like if you can get your hands on one, buy one. Yeah, it's my favorite thing. And it's also fun to show people, give them a pair of titanium tweezers, because who has a pair of titanium tweezers? So that's my most kind of fun one. One that's cool that I have that really serves no purpose is I have the Quattro ring from Titan Ring Designs. We had a little switchy tradie where I sent him an IsoGrip pen. He sent me one of his rings. He makes beautiful rings, and the Quattro, I've looked at it forever. So I kind of just floated the idea out there. I wasn't sure if he would be down for that. He was down for that. Yeah, super cool guy. Once again, another guy that's kind of dipping his toe into this, doing this, world, or building his product as a job. Makes a high quality product. The ring is fantastic. It does nothing but just sit on my finger. But it's a super cool thing. So yeah, go check them out. Titan Ring Designs. It does some really, really, really nice work. They're not cheap, but I mean, you get what you pay for. Answered this already. The community. Okay, on Instagram, I posted a question. Just in light of the political situation and everyone losing their minds. I wanted kind of some fun ideas of what people would like on a pen, or what they, for me, I'm Canadian, so I asked for people, what they would like on like a super Canadian pen. And then I also said for my American friends, what would you like on a super American friends? And just kind of opened it up to like whatever people would like. I will share a bunch of that. Actually, I have that. I haven't shared it enough on Instagram, so I will post more about that. Some people had some really great ideas. Some people had some absolutely terrible ideas. I don't know. There was a lot of references to a bunch of like Canadian actors and John Candy and some some silliness that we could do, but that also pushed my brain thinking down a different avenue of another product I'm working on where I could do more of those goofy things, because sometimes doing some of those goofy things on a pen, which is, some of these things can get rather expensive. If I do a funny customization on one of my pens, it's $200-$300. It might not be funny in, 6 months time, or it might lose its humor in that amount of time. So focusing on other products that I could put that kind of humor towards, that's kind of what that opened my eyes to. But I will share more information because some people had some pretty cool ideas, like his multicolored pen. I haven't actually had that request very often, but I know some people would probably be down for that. So it's just kind of a fun thought experiment. I don't think I'll be producing a multicolored pen, pen with multiple refills that you could select. but it's still fun to think about because the complexity behind it is interesting. And like I said, that's something that lights up my brain. All right, I guess I should give you the answer to that joke. So finally, why do cats hate outer space? He wrote the answer backwards here. They don't like vacuums. Super dad joke. All right, next question. What is the most difficult part of the manufacturing process? And have you had to develop any out-of-the-box solutions? The most difficult part of the manufacturing process is, honestly, it sounds silly, cleaning for anodizing. The anodizing I want to do on my pens, I want to maintain like a stupid uniformity in my anodizing. And anodizing is not painting. Like if you have any change in surface texture or cleanliness, it negatively impacts the anodizing. The problem is I also run my machines. Some of my machines are oil-based machines, so oil clings to parts super well. So cleaning them has been difficult. So yeah, one of the processes that I'm very proud of is this just insane cleaning process that I've come up with to get my pens to a point where I can put a very vivid anodizing on them. And that just basically involves some like alkaline cleaners, a bunch of ultrasonic tanks, some mechanical cleaning, some chemical etching before anodizing, and nothing that isn't too far out of the realm of normal, but just all together, just taken to the point where, you know, like Kleenex boxes on your feet and, you know, storing jars of pee under your wall because you're starting to lose your marbles. That's a reference to Howard Hughes for all the people out there who just think I'm talking nonsense. So yeah, oddly enough, that's one of the more difficult parts of the manufacturing process is just getting titanium clean enough to get a vivid anodize. Out of the box solutions, I mean, a lot of it is around that. Some of it, one of them was reaming pen bodies. So to put a ream through titanium like 5.5 inches deep generates a lot of heat. So I plumbed my lathe. My lathe has a pneumatic bar feeder that pushes the bar through the lathe, so I can just do multiple operations. But in this instance, I run oil through the lathe headstock, which is it can do that. It's designed to handle that. But I push oil through it so that when the reamer is going through the pen body, there's always oil right at the tip where it's doing the cutting action. And that lets me successfully ream titanium. Otherwise, it's just a recipe for everything to seize up and explode because titanium hates to be reamed. Oops, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Hi, Kurt. Any plans to have fade options up for sale? The teal green fade pen you did on Instagram looks epic. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so yes, I will do more of those for certain. They're my favorite to do. They're just rather tedious, but I will do more of those because I enjoy doing them as well. So yes, they're coming. I don't know when, but sooner than later because I'm kind of itching to do more crazy colors. I haven't done crazy colors in a while. Thanks for doing the AMA. Can you walk us through the process of building out a new design prototype? Yes. So basically it involves me trying things multiple times and running into problems and just designing around those problems. Usually I will get a half-baked idea. Like for instance, my click mechanism, I built a bunch of them where it's just a click. There's no pen attached to it. It's just something that I can put in my pocket and cycle back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then that's not the design process in itself, but that feeds back into the design process. So I'll test these things. Like I'll usually go on a walk, you know, in the evening with the dog or whatnot, and I'll put one of these mechanisms in my pocket and just cycle it just incessantly. I'll listen to a podcast and just cycle it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times and just see how it wears, where it fails, and then come back and iterate on the design. I don't know if exactly that's what you're getting after, but that's the process of building out or like a new design or a new prototype. That's typically how I act with it. Once I find something that works well, I'll build a few of them. I'll send them out to some of my beta testers. I'll run it myself. I'll basically just abuse it more than I think the average person would. And then if it passes all those checks and measures and comes back with glowing reviews, we eventually land up with a product. So yeah, that's my process anyways. How long does it take to make one of your pens start to finish? That varies, and it's changed wildly, and it is continuing to change. I think my best amount, or the highest amount of pens I've ever produced, was in my last batch, and working essentially Monday to Friday. I typically don't work weekends. I'll sometimes work evenings, like right now it's midnight. but working fairly normal hours, I've produced 60 pens, which I think works out to about 3-ish pens a day, 3-4-ish pens a day. Complete, if you want to think of it that way. That's a really bad analogy because there's no way I could produce, like I couldn't produce a single pen in whatever, a half a day. That's not how it works. But batching it works a little bit better, but batches get too big, then they get annoying. So yeah, that's roughly how long it takes. That's not the IsoGrip pens, because I mean the IsoGrip pens, for instance, right now, just machining the IsoGrip pattern on the pen takes about 40 minutes per pen body, and that doesn't include finishing, cleaning, anodizing, and whatnot. So there's a lot of time sucked up into that design. Once again, this is a number that's always in flux. Ask me again in 6 months, and I bet you I'll be able to produce more at the same level of quality, because efficiencies, optimization, that's the name of the game. What made you get into machined pens? I think we've covered that a whole whack, but I appreciate the question. Are you doing this as a hobby, or is this your full-time job? This is my full-time gig. This is what I do every single day. This is what pays the bills. Kurt, you are the man. Well, thank you. Can't wait to have the opportunity to purchase one. If you had to machine a pen the size of a baseball bat or a toothpick, which would you choose? In all seriousness, what do you feel is the most challenging part of the pen machining process? Honestly, if I had to build a pen, I would definitely pick the toothpick route, only because my machines are sized for tiny, small work. A baseball bat would honestly be rather annoying for the machines I work with. So a toothpick would oddly enough be a little bit easier. However, getting the complexities and mechanisms down to that size would be challenging. I wouldn't want to do it, but yeah, I would pick, maybe I'll pick like popsicle stick size is about the size of my pens. Maybe, I don't know, like lollipop stick size. Anyways, the most challenging part of pen machining process, the actual machining, less of an issue now, but the one that I stressed me out the most and took the most amount of time and the longest amount of time to do well was drilling titanium and reaming titanium. Drilling titanium a small amount, super easy. Drilling titanium, like they call them an aspect ratio, so like a 25D hole is like 25 times the diameter of the drill bit. That's considered like deep drilling. So when you're drilling a 1/4 inch hole like 5 inches deep, that's deep drilling. That's difficult. That's difficult in titanium for me anyways. I found ways to do it very accurately and very repeatably now, and reaming, same game. Those are the most difficult processes. Doesn't sound like it, but yeah, very, very difficult. For me anyways. For the IsoGrip pens, any plan to eventually do a stoned wash finish with the ISOs being polished, similar to how Smooth Precision's pens did it? Absolutely. That's why I spent the last like 2 weeks just going down the tumbling rabbit hole, because well, once again, that's a way to significantly reduce the amount of finishing time that I have to put into pens, and lets me, keep moving forward. And people honestly like a tumbled finish. I like a tumbled finish. It hides wear really well. So yeah, there's 100% plans to do a tumbled IsoGrip. If I had some in this latest batch, I would probably be tumbling some right now. Hi Kurt, any plans on attempting different mechanisms? You make some of my favorite pens, and Canadian. Oh, right on, thank you. I'm assuming this guy is also Canadian, or he's just a lover of the Canadianas. Any plans on attempting different mechanisms? Of course, I have a laundry list of mechanisms I want to play with, mainly the click. That's what's taking up most of my brain space right now. So yeah, that's for sure. It's on my horizon. You make my favorite pens. I appreciate it. I appreciate that very much. I appreciate all these questions. This is a ton of fun. Even though my voice is starting to run out on me now, this is a ton of fun. Hey Kurt, do you think your production will ever meet the demand of the pen nuts? Do you think you'll still be making pens in 5-10 years time? No idea. No idea on all of those. Every time the demand just impresses me. Wherever I think the demand is, I'm never right. I'm always wrong. That's a problem of marketing to the world. One guy marketing to the world. It doesn't take a lot of people to absolutely crush your production indefinitely. Do I think I'll be making pens in 5-10 years time? I hope so. I really enjoy this. I don't think pens are going to go out of style. And if they do, I'll move with the industry. Like I'll adapt and change so that I can stay relevant. I don't want to be the wagon wheel maker in the era of the car. But I think there's a timelessness to writing as well. I mean, I have a giant digital device sitting right beside me here, but I also have a journal because I enjoy writing. I think a lot of people do too. So I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. And do I want to be making pens in 5-10 years time? Right now? Hell yeah. Like I enjoy this. Why would I want to stop doing what I like doing? So I also hope that I have other things, other irons in the fire. But if I'm happy and it's working out for my life, like, yeah, why not? Next question. Oh, this is great. Thanks for doing this. My question is, are you working on any click mechanisms? Love the bolts, but have been loving seeing different makers make different click upgrades. Thanks again. Absolutely. Once again, we probably beat that one to death. Mechanisms are my favorite, so I will definitely be pursuing that. Hey Kurt, great pens and videos. Are there other EDC items that you've considered branching into? I think we've covered that one a whole wackadoo as well. Thanks for the question. I'm new to machine pens and looking to get my first one, hopefully within my budget. Out of curiosity, what inspired you to start making them, and how do you make them in such high quality? So I think we've covered most of that. Good luck. You know, welcome to the fold of the pen community. You'll buy one and then you'll buy a gang of them. What inspired me to make them was just, I think we've covered that pretty decently as well. Just kind of fell into it more than anything. And how do I make them so high quality? Because I care. I don't know. I think it's pretty easy to make a high quality product. You just have to really legitimately care to the point where you're willing to leave a little bit of money on the table in order to produce a good quality item. And are there makers out there doing that? For sure there is. There's a ton of makers that aren't doing that. But the ones that are successful and get a lot of following and hype around them are the ones that are doing that. They're leaving just a little bit of cash on the table, spending that little bit of extra time to just crank out a high quality product, and that's worth it. That's what I want to leave the world with, is good quality stuff. I don't want to produce junk. There's enough of that floating around the world. Next question. I see a lot of the good questions are already taken. With you removing the 1 pen limit last drop, what was the biggest order? So I removed the limits on the pens just because I find a ton of people that are purchasing my pens will buy one, they love it, and then they want to buy more, and then they kind of aren't able to. Because once you win a pen in my lottery, I basically flag your name as one and you can't get picked again. With this chronological picking, I've ended up picking a lot of customers that bought pens from me many years ago. And some people are raging about that, but I mean, that's the way the lottery works. They had their names in years ago. They're getting picked. That's how it's working. I promise you, I'm not pulling strings. Off that point, what was the biggest order? I think it was a multiple order. I think the person ordered, this was the biggest order I've ever had from a single person. I think it worked out to be like 6 pens. They did it over 2 orders because they didn't want to be rude. So they purchased a few and then they let everyone else in the lottery just kind of pick and choose to make sure that they didn't, crush the selection. And then right near the end, during the last like hour or so before it went to first come first serve, they purchased a few more. And they actually emailed me and asked me about it, which is like that. This is a reference to the people in the community. People are cool. Like everyone thinks that someone's buying a bunch of pens to just, third party sell them. I know so many people that have sold my pens like on the market after, and they could have fetched a lot more money for it, and they've sold it at what they purchased it for because they want to. They're cool people. Like sure they can make an extra $50 or $100 off one of my pens, but for the most part, a lot of people are doing that. Once again, I just think that speaks volumes to this community, specifically the Reddit community, the Discord community. Just, you guys are cool people. That's why I'm doing this. I love interacting with you. I will probably continue to keep the limit off of the orders unless things get absolutely crazy and people start like group buying. There was some talk about that and I didn't really consider that. So yeah, we'll see. If that happens, it's pretty easy to, I can always not fulfill an order, basically return someone their money and be like, hey, you can't buy 30 pens. Like, I won't let that fly. But yeah, that was my biggest order. Normally 2 pens is pretty, 3 pens is pretty uncommon. A lot of people order 2, but that's typically, there's not a lot of people that are ordering like 30 at a go or anything. I wouldn't let that through, honestly. That's just a little bit abusive for right now. If I'm making thousands a month, sure, but right now I gotta try to please as many people as I can. Hey Kurt, with each drop, about how many ISO and frag grip pens are released? Oh, that's kind of just a mix. It depends on what I'm currently producing. I sometimes lean heavily into the ISOs, sometimes lean heavily into the frags. This last run was about half and half. This current run that's coming up is almost all frags, no grips, and flute grips. about 80% of that being frag, and then like 10% the other two variants. So yeah, that's all over the map. I don't have a specific number. What made you interested in becoming a machinist? I like building things, and this just seemed like a more precision way to build. I was doing woodworking for a while, and then kind of getting more and more down the precision woodworking world, but then wood moves, and it's just not a very precise material to begin with. So then I kind of fell into metal, and that just kind of became a machinist-y kind of deal. So yeah, that's what pushed me towards it. Plus, having a garage full of like all the machines that I can build, like anything I think of, like I can build round parts, I can build square parts, I can build pretty much whatever I want. That's so empowering to me. I love being able to make anything. And that's kind of what I've set my little garage up for, is just be able to make whatever I want to make. It just brings me joy. Kurt, have you ever think about doing different mechanisms? Once again, we've covered that one. I appreciate the question, but the answer is yes. Of course I have. Hey Kurt, is there a current bolt style? Oh, hold on. I got to read this a little better. Hey Kurt, is the current bolt style pen your very first design, or did you have others prior to it? How did you come up with the multi-piece body? I'm interested to know what is the favorite color combination you have created as well for your dedicated. Okay. Is this my first design? No. This is, in my world, this is about revision 30. Like I said, it's about revision 3 or 4 for most people. And it just slowly evolved. Technically, the body's not multi-piece unless you're talking about the track pens I did. They were a multi-piece body, but these ones are just 2 pieces, the body and tip. It's kind of fairly common. I mainly did that because it just lets you get a nice smooth track for the refill to flow out of, so you get a really smooth cycle. If you start putting seams in, it can get difficult to maintain a really nice smooth feel. So that's why I do it in one piece. It would be way easier to do it in multiple pieces, but I choose not to because I want it to feel as good as possible. And the bolt action has slowly evolved with time. This one is my most refined design. Like I said, it's about the fourth iteration. The first ones were they just keep feeling better and getting better because I'm getting better at machining them, and I know what I'm doing more. Favorite color combinations? The super pink, purple, blue fades like I talked about. I very much like those. Next question. Hello from San Antonio, Texas, Kurt. What inspires the creativity behind your machining craft? Art, nature, nostalgia? Also, whose machine, pen, artistry, or other craft do you personally admire or collect? I'm fairly new to the machine pen world and have gravitated to varying styles, included found a machine. Well, thank you so much. Keep up the amazing work. I appreciate it. Hello back to you down in San Antonio, Texas, from Alberta, the Texas of the North. My inspiration I get, like I said earlier, from sci-fi, space, that kind of stuff. That's where I get it. Nostalgia for sure. Like I love 8-bit retro arcade. I grew up on Super Nintendo. I logged years of my life into Mario. So that's kind of one avenue I'd like to go down as well. Machine pen artistry or craft do you personally admire or collect? I don't collect, but I very much admire Chris Bathgate's work. He's a machinist sculptor. He does some crazy beautiful machining. Once again, works out of his basement. Actually works out of a nice studio he just built now. I love his work. It's art for art's sake, but it's all machined. Go check him out if you don't know his work. Chris Bathgate. He does some beautiful coffee table books. I have the first one he did. I'm definitely going to buy the second book he did. His works are a little spendy for me to collect, but I would like to add one of them to my collection at some point. Yeah, I just think he's doing really cool stuff that I haven't seen done before. And yeah, art for art's sake. I like more of his mechanical kind of complex moving designs. But yeah, all his work is just wild. Like, go check it out. I guarantee you've seen nothing like that. Any plans for new designs like a unibody design or a non-bolt action pen? Absolutely. I think we've talked about that a ton. Always different designs on the horizon. All right, voice is starting to fail, so we'll see how much longer we can go, and then I think I'll have to pair this off into another day. For you, it'll be no difference. For me, it'll be a day's rest because my voice is failing. Were you hoping for and expecting all the hype that's been built up around your brand? Pretty impressive to see. No, not at all. I mean, of course, I'm going to fuel the hype train if I can, but the hype train is quite fueled now, so I don't push it any harder. I think that also, I mean, once again, not to humble brag, but I think that just comes from just building a quality product that people enjoy and just doing good customer service and charging people what is fair price. I think you get all three of those checked off, people are just naturally going to hype up your product, because why wouldn't they like it? Like, if you're getting more than you think you're paying for, like if you're blowing away people's expectations, like I said, if that whole, you have one chance to make a first impression, if you nail that first impression, what's not to like, you know what I mean? Like that's the goal. So yeah, do I want this much hype? I mean, sure. Yeah. Like why not? Yeah. I have to deal with a gang of emails. Like that's a pretty small price to pay to never have to worry about production. So yeah, I'm super appreciative of it. I maybe don't want it hyped as much, because it's a lot to live up to, which is kind of just an ever moving bar of that I always want to be exceeding, is as the product gets more and more hyped, I just always want to exceed people's expectations. So it's a good driver to keep the quality up, and to forever be pushing the quality forward. But yeah, I try not to fuel the hype train up too much, because there's lots of people doing that for me, and I thank you all. Favorite pen to make is, the current pen that I'm making right now is the bolt action pen, basically the only pen that I'm making right now. I have other pens that I used to make that I don't make any longer, just because I rather enjoy this one, and I think it's, if I had to pick a pen, I think it works best. It does all the things that a pen should do. That's why I continue to make this one. What got you into machining or making pens? Just a hobby, or did it branch out from a different career? Once again, I think we answered this one. My actually educational background is in electronics, but that paired well with machine retrofits, so that worked out for me in the in the end. Plus, it's never hurts to have education. Next question. Hey Kurt, do you have any pens that you made that you haven't shown off, or fear of high demand? How many pens do you have in your collection? I honestly probably have maybe a dozen pens in my collection. I've done some that I don't release. I did one in bronze with titanium ends that came out really cool, but I haven't released it just because I don't know, really no reason other than I've only made one and just kind of carry it around with me. I don't know if I fear any of the high demand. That'd be like a super, what's the word I'm trying to think of? I don't know, almost like narcissistic thinking, but like narcissistic on my part, not the person that asked this question. Yeah, so I don't know, anything I don't show is typically because I made it for me and just for my enjoyment, and it's nothing that's earth-shattering. If it's earth-shattering and super cool and I think people are going to love it, of course I'm going to share it. Like I'm not immune to that. Like I want people to be excited about what I make and draw eyeballs to what I do. Like, and the business side of me, the businessman in me, is like, that's a good idea. Like, yeah, make sure that make sure that you can continue to heat your garage and pay for titanium. But yeah, nothing that I'm sitting on that's super cool that I haven't shared. Hello, what are the price ranges for these pens? You can jump on my website on under the EDC Bolt page, I believe at the bottom. I should do a better job of highlighting that. I have all the pens listed and all their prices, but they vary between $100 US to $300 US, depending on the options you pick. Exotics, our next question. Exotics, when? Moku, Tai, Zirc? Yes, mainly Zirc. Eventually, when? Don't know. I can't give an exact time because I'm just continually always impressed with the demand, and yeah. I can never keep up. Every time I level up my production and I think that I'm going to, catch a little bit of a break, I just get crushed again, which is a lovely crush. It's not a crush in a bad way. It's just, yeah. Thanks for the AMA. Do you feel at the level of demand for what you are currently doing and any related struggles to keep with it? Well, hold on. I got to read better here. Do you feel that the level of demand for what you're currently doing and any related struggles to keep with it limit your ability to explore new or alternative designs? Absolutely. That's not something I'm super upset about, because honestly, I just get a lot of enjoyment out of this pen right now, and I still think there's a ton of people that want them. So I don't mind producing them right now, but it is absolutely impacting my ability to iterate. It's not a problem. It's just is what it is right now. It's something I would like to change, but it's not a problem per se. Okay, these are some long questions. I will read it out anyways, because you know what? You're here. You've been here for like, I don't know, 2 hours now at least. Let's. My natural satin frag grip from you is my top favorite 3 pens that I carry daily. Love it. My only minor nitpicky constructive criticism would be a shorter pen is easier to pocket carry. Dipping into different thicknesses. I'm kind of paraphrasing here to make it easier for you guys. The only real alternative option for the latter is a formed clip. Oh, they're talking about even a deeper pocket carry, which I try to shoot for the deepest pocket carry I can. But anyways, carrying on. Which would be a formed clip. Yeah, I'll never make a formed clip. I like a fully machined clip. I'm wondering, do you have plans, or have you considered shortening your pens whilst keeping the Parker refill? Also wondering if you've thought about branching out to new mechanisms other than the bolt action. Okay, we've covered that one. As for, I'll never do a stamped steel or like stamped titanium pocket clip. That doesn't appeal to me. Yes, you can get like an even deeper pocket carry with those. I don't like it. I like them fully machined clip. I think it has a level of quality that you just can't compete with. I just dislike stamped titanium clips or steel clips or whatnot. I'm not throwing hate at anybody that does it. There's definitely a use for it. There's definitely pros to them. I just like a fully machined pen. The second part of that question, would I make the pens smaller on the Parker style refill? I'm honestly making them as small as I can. I could technically make them a little bit smaller if I change the bolt throw, or if I let the kind of negative airspace around the bolt action show. This is kind of super nuanced details. But I'm essentially making them as small as I possibly can for that refill, without getting into things I'm deliberately designing around. Next question. Hi Kurt, I've been collecting pens for a while, but none of them have the extreme attention to detail and incredibly tight tolerances that you seem to have in your pens. The fact that you had to add air grooves so the air does not get trapped in the bolt mechanism made me say, wow, that's some tight tolerances. When I saw in your vid that, it made me hope to have at least one of your pens in my collection. What made you decide to make pens with such tight tolerances, as many other makers don't seem to strive for that level of perfection? I was amazed when I saw that you do. I appreciate that. That's super kind for you to say. Chasing down those like super tight tolerances is what excites me and what makes me want to keep doing this. I could make them a little sloppier and they would probably still function like 80% as good as they do. But it's not all about, for me anyways, it's not all about just making money with this business. I have to enjoy what I do, and bringing that level of detail to the design helps me enjoy it. So that's why I do it. And why other bankers don't, I don't know. There could be all kinds of reasons for that, but yeah, I don't know. I appreciate your very kind words. That's what I strive for. I want people to have these reactions when they pick up my product. I want them, like I said, I said this multiple times through this whole stream. You only have one chance to make a first impression. When people grab my pen and they cycle it once and they go, whoa, that's it. That's done. Like I've made a friend there. Some people have sent me videos of like unboxing and then them cycling the pen and them just going, wow. Like a lot of pen collectors have sent this to me, and that's the best feeling. Like that is my favorite message to get. And that's what I will continue to push towards, because yeah, why not, right? Why not make something cool? If you can make it, you may as well make it as good as you can. Do you remember or have a pen that served as your initial inspiration for pen making? Like I said, I kind of just built one as because I wanted one. So that's kind of where the inspiration lied, and then I just slowly kept advancing from there. And a bolt action is just a simple retraction method, which is why I ended up with that one. Curious, what made you change the length and travel of your path for the bolt? So that was going from the 2023 version pens and prior to the new 2024 versions. I just shortened it a little bit because the pen throw was just way too long. There was no need for it to be that long. It was retracting the pen more than enough and exposing it more than enough. So I shrunk it down a little bit because it made it a little bit more fidgetable. It made me able to use a spring that had a lower spring rate, but kept that kind of feel throughout the cycle. So you didn't have to have like it really difficult to engage at the end, but then because the longer the throw is, the more power the spring has to have to keep it from rattling. So by shortening that up, I was able to go with a lighter weight spring, which just feels nicer. So that was the main reason I changed it. It's just for feel, just to make it feel better. Scrambled eggs are fried chicken. Yes, no, why? I'm going to say scrambled eggs are absolutely not fried chicken because no amount of not scrambling the egg is going to make a chicken. I can't make a chicken from my eggs that I scramble. I'm sure I could get all weird with this. Sure, I get all kinds of weird with this question, but we'll just carry on. Thanks for your question. You're in the lottery. As crazy as that question is, you're in the runnings for this this giveaway. I received that pen that you made yesterday. It's fantastic work, but I don't understand what the spacer on the pen shaft is. Is it intended for smoother operation? So what they're talking about, actually, if there's a little QR code when you purchase any of my pens, it's right on the front of the box. If you scan it, it opens up a whole web page, and it does answer this question. I'm not throwing shade at you. That's totally a reasonable question, but it's answered there if you want to see it in detail. All it basically works for is acting as a land, like a flat surface for the spring to sit against, because it just keeps everything in line and makes the cycle better. It works without it. It makes the spring rate a little bit less. So part of it was to increase the spring rate just slightly and give a nice flat surface for the spring to sit on, because once again, it just makes its cycle better when cycled, thousands and thousands and thousands of times. Also, if you look closely on that little spacer, it says confounded machine because they're printed on my little resin printer, and I was able to put text on it. And it's just, I don't know, that's a point of pride for me. Kind of one of those little Easter egg things. Hey, Kurt, what is the secret ingredient in your pierogies? You will never know. So I love making pierogies. Polish heritage, so I've made plenty of pierogies. Sour cream. Lots of sour cream. Lots of butter. And fry them with bacon. Pierogies. Next question. Hey Kurt, how do you find inspiration for your designs? I'm thinking of the ice grip in particular, but also things that you are dreaming up now. I've covered that one a million times. Space. I'm a space dork. Find all my inspiration from space stuff. Oh, we're almost near the end. We're getting near the end, everybody. Kurt, first and most great work with what you were doing. What new style mechanisms and pen styles are on the horizon? I think we've also covered that one a whole bushel, so thank you so much for your question. Any plans to offer new materials, refills, or mechanisms? Once again, I think we covered that one too. Thank you so much for your question. I own several confounded machine pens, and one thing I've always found surprising about them is how smooth the bolt movement is. Oh, well, thank you kindly. I actually haven't read these questions prior, so I'm not like trying to stroke my own ego, just so you guys know. These ones I haven't even replied to on Reddit yet. They're completely new to me. Carrying on. They're even smoother than some of my Zirc pens from other makers. Zirc is naturally just a bit smoother of a material. That's why he's probably referencing that. Or she, I don't know, sorry. Basically, what I want to know is, what did friction ever do to you? Are you planning to rewrite the laws of physics for the Zirc drop, removing it entirely? Can't wait to hear your noble speech. Oh, that's super kind of you to say. Yeah, I polished the bejesus out of the inside of the pens. Getting a really straight hole, and then reaming that hole to a really accurate diameter, and then polishing that internal wall to a nice consistent finish without altering the diameter too much is the secret sauce. Once again, not difficult. That can be done with all kinds of tools. I've built my own specialty tools just because of frustration. Yeah, that's how I get them nice and smooth. And then I do a special process on the bolt itself, just to kind of change. I basically blast, peen, if you want to consider it that way, the bolt slider mechanism, because it gives a little bit of space for like any kind of lubricants to hang on to. I also lubricate the inside of the pens with Teflon. That helps a ton. And then lubricating the tips of the pens. Small known or unknown fact, but that's where most of the drag actually comes from in my pens, is the tip going in and out of the pen tip hole, because it's a very tight fit. So yeah, put a little bit of lube there. Put that on all your pens. It'll help significantly. Zirc, that's going to be a fun one. It's going to be even smoother. So I'm excited to see that one too. Hello, Kurt. Thanks for taking the time to do this. My first question was asked above how you started. My second question is, why pens? I think we answered that as well, and I'm glad you do them. But what about pens that was interesting to you? I think we covered all that. I don't know, stationary dork, kind of like this stuff. Yeah, thanks for the question. Do you feel pressure to innovate in releasing new designs or models, or is the satisfaction of machining a product with a tight tolerance and optimal function enough? Well, oddly enough, the latter. I would love to iterate on new designs. I just don't have the time to do so. It would make me happy to do so. I don't have the hours right now. I get 100% of my satisfaction from machining a product with tight tolerances and optimal function. Right now, we're at the point where I believe the tolerances and function of the pen are like, they're adequate. Anything at this point is just now we're splitting hairs, which is, I love that. I love that aspect of it. And I will continue to push forward with that. Cause like I said, one of my taglines on my website is the pursuit of perfection. Just try to make it better. Why not? Like, what do you have to lose? If you can make it better and you're not spending a ton more time for it, it's just going to be cooler. Like when you get it, it's going to be cooler. That should be my new tagline, is make things that are cool. I don't know. That's all I want to do. This has probably been already asked, but one, what got you into liking pens, analog things, journaling, writing, etc.? Okay, there's some new ones there. And secondly, what are your favorite pens outside the ones you make, which are gorgeous? Thanks for running the giveaway as well. Hopefully I win. I've been wanting one of your pens for a while. I got back on Reddit for this. Oh, cool. Well, thank you. Welcome back to this group of degenerates, which I say kindly. So yeah, some of that's been covered. But what got me into like analog world? So like they're talking about like writing in a book. Like I said, I think that's a timeless thing. I like journaling just because all like super, I don't know, kind of interesting people in history have journaled, and I enjoy being able to look back and have like a log of what I was thinking at the time, where my brain was, and yeah, that I should probably stop banging that into my desk. It's probably annoying for you listening, but that's what got me into this world. I enjoy a mechanical watch. That's like, this is a whole analog world. I enjoy like audio. There's a whole like, that's a whole nother passion of mine, is like amplifiers and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. That's, I don't know. In a digital world, it is sometimes very nice to just sit down with no distractions. I can open up my little book here, open to a blank page, and there's nothing stealing my time. There's no notifications. There's no desire to like, click on a different app and, get your dopamine drip into your brain. It's just, I open my little book and I write in my little book, and I can write what my mind is thinking, and I can come back and look at it, and I can draw pictures, and I can do whatever I want. And no one can ever look at it, or someone can look at it. Like, I don't know. I like that. I think that's probably why I like machining pens too, is just pens are just that little process. It's like that ritual, like having a coffee. It's just, it's part of what makes you happy. Next question. Hi, Kurt. First of all, I wanted to see if I could I got to read this better. Sorry. A lot of reading tonight. First off, I wanted to see if you could let us know the tolerance/spring rate of the current Parker bolt. Secondly, thank you for the phenomenal customer service, Ashley. Well, you're more than welcome, Ashley. I'm glad you had a good customer experience. sounds so lame saying it like that. But that's one thing I do strive for. It's just like, I try to treat people well. Like if you buy one of my products, I'm going to go out of my way to like treat you well. As long as you're not mean to me, I'm going to be as nice to you as I possibly can. That's so far it's fared well for me. Tolerances and spring rate of the current Parker bolt. I will put it on my site. I have the exact McMaster link to the same spring I use. McMaster actually stocks it from the same supplier I use. It's just cheaper for me to go buy from bulk from the supplier. But it has the exact spring rate, the wire diameter, the size, compressed, extended. I will post that. It's posted on Reddit. You can definitely search it. I'm sure it's posted on Instagram somewhere as well. You can probably Google it, but I will try to post it on the EDC bolt page as well, so that if people want to mess around with different spring rates, you know what your design limits are, what can fit in the pen. Good luck. I haven't found many things that fit. So yeah, unfortunately. Next question. Your craftsmanship is nothing short of masterful. Wow, thank you very much. This is super weird to read in my own voice. But this, once again, is someone else's question. Once again, I paid them handsomely for this, but we'll carry on. Each piece feels like a pen and more, or it feels less like a pen and more like a museum-worthy artifact. Wow, this is getting a little intense. Designed to be cherished for generations. Okay, yeah. Well, this is obviously my mom. The way that you balance form and function, artistry is rare and clear, and every detail is intentional. Okay, we're just going to gloss over some of this because it's a little weird. I'm curious, what aspects of the process gives you the most satisfaction? Is it the initial design, the hands-on creation, or seeing your pieces find homes with people who truly appreciate them? First off, this gentleman or gentle lady, whoever wrote this, I appreciate it. I glossed over some of your compliments just because it seems weird when I'm reading them, but I very much appreciate it. That's very kind of you to say. The most satisfaction, honestly, I get is the creating. I really enjoy making things. Even when I make things for myself, once I have them, it's nice, but the process of making it is where I derive most of my joy from it. Also, giving it to people who actually appreciate it. I just receive so much interaction from people that say like, hey, I'm going to, you know, pass this on to my kid or something like that. Like, that stuff is so cool. Like, that is the coolest thing to read about. So that's a huge part of it too. So yeah, the creating and then just hearing back from people, massive. Next question. You crashed the internet? Well, yeah, the live stream did. That's why we're doing this. The not so live stream. Actually, that's what I'll title it. The not so live stream. Oh, we have 4 more questions left, everybody. Thank you for sticking around this long. If you have, if you've just scanned through that, that's totally cool too. And if you, anyways, Karen, I'm rambling. Next question. Hi, Kurt. If I remember correctly, some time ago, you mentioned you were playing around with a click mechanism. Oh, how's that progressing, if at all? Especially considering the overwhelming demand for your pens. Fully justified, I have to say. If there's any time left for R&D in your schedule, or is there any time left for R&D in your schedule? If so, anything else in the works? Milling pattern, blah, 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 blah. Thanks, and keep doing what you're doing. I think all of those have been answered. So yeah, click mechanism basically been, iterating behind the scenes, but I have nothing to report to you folks yet because production is crushing me. And I think we covered pretty much everything else in that question. So yeah, thanks for your question, but we will move along. I feel bad for piling more questions on here, but I'll try to keep it simple. Do you have any intentions on changing your clip design so it can be swapped out by end users? So technically the clip can be swapped out. It sits in a pocket. It's a press fit. It's hard to get out, but I've done that deliberately so it doesn't wiggle. So it can totally be swapped out, but could you put something else in place? No, like it has to be machined to the exact shape. So maybe that's what you're referencing. I have no intention on changing my clip design, so it can be swapped out with alternative. Like I think they're meaning a stamped design. It's just not, doesn't make me happy. So it's probably not the way I'm going to go, but I do have some iterations on a clip that will allow you to position it wherever you want. Because I know that's one criticism people have. The clips are all clocked to the pins, and some people want them in a slightly different clocked position. So that's one of the design that we'll say would be the next variant of this is a clip that can move. So I put a bit of work into that as well. Perhaps I would come out with the Energel variant. Perhaps not. I'm not solid on that, but we're this far into the stream, we can start saying all kinds of crazy stuff. There's basically only my mum listening. Next question. Hey, Kurt, amazing pens. I want to know what made you turn it into a business versus a hobby. Like, what was the turning point? Ha! I get it. Turning point. I think we covered that pretty elaborately, but I think as soon as I knew that people would buy one of my, like something that I made, which was really early on when I could sell a product that I made, and people would pay what I at the time thought was a pretty steep price. I made my brass bolt action pens for $80. I think they were $80 Canadian, might have been US, but at the time I felt that was pretty high, and yeah, people bought tons of them. So I think that was the catalyst to be like, hey, I could do this, and I could control my own kind of destiny in this world, because kind of only as far as we know, we get one kick at it, and I'd rather be driving the bus than riding the bus. So yeah, that's what kind of made me decide to flip it from a hobby to a business, and I'm super thankful I did. Everybody warned me. They're like, you're gonna hate it because you turn your hobby into a business. It's not gonna be fun anymore, and you're gonna take all the joy out of it. It's like, no, I don't think so. Not yet, anyways. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen sometime down the road, and we'll burn that bridge when we get there. But yeah, sometimes you can't listen to people. Very last question. Kick ass, Kurt. This has been fun. Thanks for doing this. You seem to have lots of love for all things space, rocket launches, moon missions, etc. Can I be the first in line when you do a meteorite pen? I would love to say yes, but probably no. I can't play favorites or else the internet will light me on fire. I do have love for all things space. I'm always posting rocket launch stuff, and moon mission stuff is super interesting to me, and I love meteorite. I have meteorite here. I've machined meteorite. I've put meteorite into pens. I have a pen that I personally carry that has a piece of meteorite in it. I will do more meteorite work in the future because, like I said, I just love space, and I love things that are just stupidly anciently old, and I love interacting with them daily and being able to touch them. And yeah, all that stuff is very exciting for me. Thank you for writing the question. I love doing this. Of course I love doing this. I've been sitting here in my shop all alone. It's now almost 1 a.m. answering questions because I enjoy this, not because I have to. It's because I want to, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I think that answers that question. I think that answers every question. I'm not going to go into the sub questions on every question because there's a gang of those too. If you really want to follow those along, jump onto the machined pen subreddit. We'll scroll way back up to the top so you can see it's under Reddit. Machined pens is the subreddit. Confounded Machine AMA. I'll link this in the video. You don't have to remember any of this. Let's flip this back to Talking Head Kurt so you can see how my weary face is now holding up. Anyways, thank you guys all for your questions. Thank you for following along with my YouTube journey. I know I haven't released a video in a long time, and that's, well, hopefully after listening to all these, you understand why that's the case. Yeah, we will have a humongous update video that I'm working on. Once again, it's not gonna be quite as long as this video, but it will be very long as well, which will show you all the goings on and how we've got from when I last talked to you to where we are right now. Thank you once again all for listening, and I will see you next time.